Good afternoon. Welcome.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
That's jazzy. That's Father's Day special musical bed.
That was. Who was that?
Yeah. That's good. That's because we've got the best.
A young person.
We've got Matt tech hopping.
Matt is great.
Yeah, Matt is great. Anyway, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Father's Day to you and your fathers, your grandfathers. Remember to send them a lovely message, take them out, get them some real ale, enjoy the sunshine, because dads are worth it. But otherwise, join us, keep us company, because there's so much to talk about today. And as per usual, we're going to have a Sunday fun day, aren't we?
We're going
because
to.
It's
whether you want to or not.
Coxie and Phillips.
Coxie and Phillips.
Yeah, I don't like
P to the C.
P to the C. I don't even know what that means.
Don't know me either.
But anyway, we're here with you for the next 3 hours. We're going to be talking about Starmer. Apparently, the roadmap for his departure will be released tomorrow, so they say. A lot of conjecture. This is what the media does. They make stories happen by sort of printing them repeatedly. They're going to happen, willing them to happen. And at this point, if he now doesn't resign tomorrow, it's going to look weird.
I hope he doesn't. I think I know you're in the middle of a piece and we're not chatting casually before we go on air, but I just hope he sits in situ now, because he's shown no guts about anything. So why not show some guts now? I mean, we're going to be subjected to this change. No one's requested whatsoever. And there's not. We need a general election, and Sir Keir Starmer's got an opportunity to show us he's got some.
I just saw an old friend of mine, a good old friend of mine, down in the makeup room, Matt Ford, comedian who used to work in the Labour Party with Tony Blair. And I said to him, so tell me about Andy Burnham. And he basically went, you know, this is the Labour guy. He's going, that man has no opinions. He flip-flops on everything. He's the most indecisive person. He's a terrible communicator. He's essentially been given this free pass and made up to be this amazing thing. And it's like, people have got no idea. And
if Matt Ford's saying that, and that is a worry.
Right. And I was like, so how's he got this? He said, well, it's the radical left of the party. And I'm like, oh, God, what are we getting off? I'm like, can we keep Keir, please?
There's nothing's been learned at all.
Nothing.
The way the media, the mainstream media are talking about Burnham is the same way they talked about. It's exactly the same script, but they've replaced Starmer with Burnham.
Yeah, they did the same with Zach Polanski. They were like, oh my God, isn't he so vibrant? Isn't he so funny? Isn't it charismatic? Isn't it so progressive? And it's like, whoa, he's actually nuts.
He's mad, and now he's nowhere to be seen. Because they won't touch him with a barge pole, because they let him speak for 3 months, and boy did he speak, and now we know exactly what he stands for. We also know exactly what his supporters stand for, and it's mental.
I'm just laughing because you're shining.
Oh man, I know. It's so hot. I didn't run here. I walked 2 miles.
You've got literally, yeah. It's like, yeah. It's like you're in some sort
of passionate discussion with Phillips.
Looks like you've come out of some sort of alternative 80s film. Oh, anyway, here we go. Let's get some latest lines, have we? Because shall we? Because Yvette Cooper has told Sir Keir Starmer he must stand down. Well, the Foreign Secretary, who we never see doing anything, like, does she go abroad? Does she speak to world leaders? I don't know. But she's popped up. She's come out of her cupboard to tell Starmer he must go. It's understood she delivered the message to the Prime Minister privately over the weekend. My understanding is he's holed up in Chequers with his wife.
You would do, though, wouldn't you? Chequers looks lovely.
Oh, I've been hiking around there.
If you were thinking, well, I'm out of here soon, you get yourself to Chequers, don't you? Do all the things you probably shouldn't do at Chequers and just have a ruddy good time.
You do the 80s movie at Chequers.
You call up Putin and you ask him to arrange something for you, and just have a good old...
It's a beautiful part of the world. Like, you can go on, because when I lived in London, I like a good hike. So I would drive out that way.
Whereabouts is Chequers, exactly? Which county?
Buckinghamshire.
Oh, it's in Buckinghamshire,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's there's a really lovely village nearby where Jackie Stewart lives. Facts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Facts with Phillips.
Facts. And there's a really amazing pub as well called the Royal Standard of England, which is like, it claims to be England's oldest pub, but it's got
I know exactly where that is.
It's got taxidermy and suits of armour. Well, basically, the things you need when you're having a cider.
It is... I have been there.
You've been there, you know it.
I was doing a gig in the area. Where's... Beaconsfield's near there.
There you go.
Doing a gig in
Beaconsfield, I think.
And it's a very posh area around there, incredibly
Well, hence
posh.
Chequers being there. They hardly put Chequers in, like,
No,
Luton.
imagine if it was on the edge of a council estate. It'd be brilliant. Just one of those council estate houses that had
inside the biker
free
wall.
not through to accommodate a load of asylum sneakers, but they put the...
Oh, gosh. Anyway, it turns out, though, I don't know if this is, light at the end of the tunnel or just the tunnel collapsing in on itself. Rachel Reeves is going to lose her job as Chancellor if Andy Burnham
Of course
becomes
she is.
PM.
I mean, can you imagine keeping her? Sorry, I just got to tap myself down now.
It's going to be constant. It is so hot.
It was quite a film. No, I will calm down as once we start talking about Reeves.
But yeah, I'm sure that will help. But someone told me, and I can't remember who it wasn't now, but I get so much intel from people all the time. But basically, the markets, the banks and the markets don't want Reeves to go because they know she's so useless that she doesn't really worry them because she doesn't really know what she's doing.
That she can be manipulated in a way that perhaps Miliband can't.
Right, Miliband as Chancellor is going to be like, guys, let's tax everything. I don't know what that voice was, but it's almost there.
The biggest psychosis of our age is climate alarmism and net zero. Net zero being a product of the monetisation of climate alarmism. And Ed Miliband presides over that. He's fully drunk the Kool-Aid. He's got the full cognitive dissonance about it. And the idea that we can fix our country by continuing to fund net zero is for the birds. So the idea that the guy that stood behind that, who wants to spend £10 billion a year, if not more, on net zero, could be the Chancellor of the Exchequer, is as big a worry as having Andy Burnham as Prime Minister.
What we're basically going to have running our country, a meme and a congested ukulele player.
It's incredible, isn't
it? Is that what we've got now? Is this our politics?
It is, and by the way, this is the best we can offer, apparently.
Where did the era of like Churchills and Gladstones go? Why have we got a meme and a ukulele player?
Why? I mean, you don't even have to compare him to great people like that. I mean, he doesn't stand up against Cameron or May or Truss. These people, I mean, you only have to look at people that have failed in the last 10 years and they don't stand up to them by comparison.
Do you think if like Ed Miliband in today's age sort of went around handing his CV and doing interviews, it'd actually have a job?
No, of course not. No. This is unfortunately why people end up in politics. It's a bit like teaching. If you can't, you teach. If you can't, you go into politics. You know, these people are programmed one way. And that they can talk with sounding like they got plums in their mouth, so people go straight away, tick in the box. One thing Ed Miliband can't do is pretend to be working class in the same way Andy Burnham can, because Andy Burnham loves Oasis and gravy and chips and pies and stuff, and Ed Miliband doesn't. So together they're just one great big, I don't know, soup of nothingness.
They are a soup of nothingness. The Royal Standard is in Penn. Apparently.
It's a great pub. It's got some really interesting artefacts.
I've never seen as much stuff in my life as in that pub.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Great.
I mean, I wish that was the inside of my house. I'm getting there with the inside of my house. I don't yet have the taxidermy or the knights in shining armour, but I've got a lot of other weird things.
The knights in shining armour.
I would quite like it.
Do you not just want the armour, or do you want the knights as well?
It depends how decomposed the knight is. Is it a living, breathing one? Is it?
Well, Sir Keir Starmer's a knight.
Oh,
so.
God, no. No. Actually, no one with a knighthood's that good anymore. Oh, they were rubbish
I don't know.
aren't they?
No, I can't think of anyone.
No.
Who have they knighted? Sadiq Khan?
Has he been knighted yet?
Yeah,
Did that happen?
Yeah, yeah. For I don't know what for. No, I'll have a think about it, but I can't think of anything that he could be knighted for.
No, nobody wants it. Let us talk about Kemi Badenoch, because she's been writing various articles today, particularly in the Daily Mail, where she's got a big column, where she's robustly coming out saying, why I will never do a deal with Farage. But what's interesting, let me get the newspaper, actually, because what is interesting in the Mail, hold on, here we go, let's get through that. Here it is. What is interesting about it is they've done that thing where they've put like a sort of little bit, a little column inside her column, and it's talking about, so here it is, voters can't be traded like football cards, and she's basically saying Reform are basically, they dress up like Thatcherites, but they behave like Corbynites. I'm not sure that's going to really work. I don't think that many
Who behaves like Corbynites?
Nigel Farage, apparently, in Reform. I don't really think many people are going to be like, really? They're like extremely left-wing? I don't know. But let's see, it might land. But she's basically saying that basically she won't do any sort of deal with the with Reform, and then they've got statements from Reform, different sources, and this is my favourite one. Lowe is happy now because he can continue his love affair with the Tory party.
Is it?
That's coming from inside
Somebody's
Reform.
been saying that A friend of mine's got their own radio television show. Her name's Alex, and she's been saying that quite a bit.
I've known for a long time. when the world catches up with me, will I get the thanks? No. It would just be like one of those things that everyone's always said and always knew, despite the fact I've been so abused for it. But there you go.
You are abused for it quite a lot. And by the way, those people that tag me in the abuse and think that I'm in some way going to engage with them, you're really wrong. Alex is my mate. Back off.
Well, yeah, I don't care. That's what they do. But anyway, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the way the Conservative plan is unfolding, it's all going according to plan, which is this idea that, reform needs to be below the margin to be able to form a majority government. Then the plan would be that they would therefore be forced to do a deal with the Tories. The Tories say, no, we don't want to do a deal with you because X, Y, Z. There's going to be the kangaroo court over the 5 million that Nigel got for security. They're going to try and make that lead to a by-election. Brace yourselves for that. I think you'd win if there was a by-election in Clacton, but they're going to use it to besmirch his character. It's interesting, by the way. The leak of Nigel getting 5 million for his security went to exactly the same journalist that a certain person in the Conservative Party was giving all the leaks to about Boris Johnson. Oh, we had Prosecco, after hours.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That is interesting.
The things that, you wouldn't know unless you were there. The gold wallpaper that never existed. That information, especially the lockdown so-called birthday party, which no one would have known about, and frankly I still think was so overhyped. I really don't care that 5 minutes after 5 o'clock Boris Johnson was in the same office he was in perfectly legally before, drinking a glass of Prosecco because it was his birthday. That was so overhyped and ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't like Boris Johnson particularly. I'm not saying yay Boris wave and yay net zero. I'm just saying that was ridiculous, the way the media and everyone just piled in. But the person inside the Conservative Party who started all that is trying to get him chucked out, who was giving the material to the press, it's the same journalist receiving it.
Yeah.
There's a whole network of funnies going on. I can see it very clearly. But the plan would be besmirch Nigel, force him to below the point of being able to get a majority. Likely the Conservatives cannot get a majority either. There would have to be some sort of deal. Play it down now, say, no, I'd never do a deal with him before an election. After the election, there would be, yes, we'll do a deal to save us from a left-wing government. Because remember, Kemi said this, being interviewed by The Spectator about a week ago. She said, of course I would save the country from an awful left-wing government if I really had to. Now she's saying, we won't do it, but that would be prior to an election, because this is the plan. And then she will say to the Tories who have gone over to reform, well, let's all get back together again. And then guess what? The same characters are back behind the levers of power that were in charge those 15 years when they didn't do anything. Politique.
Look, they're emboldened right now because of what happened on Thursday night, not just because of the result in Makerfield, because, of course, that didn't fare too well for the Tories, or anybody on the right, let's be honest. However, they did win up in M&D and they did turn over the SNP. That's actually a result that was a bit of a referendum on fossil fuels, actually, and had it not been for Makerfield, would have got a lot more scrutiny.
What is so mad, I think, about that one, the referendum on fossil fuels, is the fact that, Reform didn't really... Did they contest it? Didn't they put any resources in? They were focused on Makerfield. But if they had, the message of, hang on, this is the party of net zero... This is the party of Boris Johnson saying we're going to do this further, faster, and leading the international treaties. I mean, I just feel like they...
The other thing to consider is, it's a shame to say, but the candidates that Reform have chosen are weak. This is no slight on Robert Kenyon. He did his absolute best, but that was not good enough. And unfortunately, in national politics, it has to be good enough. I've very rarely looked at a politician candidate and thought I could do better. And I'm not someone who's putting myself forward, but I just think the ability to communicate, the ability to stand up to scrutiny, it has to be better.
Political experience, knowing how to do interviews. I think about 4 days is all they had to pick a candidate, and
he was the obvious choice on the back that he stood there before.
Reservist from the area. But I think that, they've got this romanticism at the moment in Reform that everyone's got to be from the constituency. Burnham's not from the constituency, even Bim in Liverpool. That's normally the sort of anti-Manchester. And I think that having this sort of romantic idea that we'll just get someone from the constituency and that will be enough. You did this David versus Goliath thing. No, you just got to pick an animal. I don't mean an actual animal. I mean like a real fighter.
The advantage that all the other parties have, the legacy parties have, is they know how to do this.
Yeah.
They know how to vet. They know how to, to choose. They know how to move people around, to put them into. There are plenty of people in Reform. I don't think Reform backed Robert Kenyon. Sticking him in a van and then sticking every other prominent Reform MP or senior party member next to him in that van to talk about issues, that's not going to win hearts and minds. That looks like a podcast. What you've got to do, essentially, is what Andy Burnham did. Now, Andy Burnham was always going to win that seat, unless he went up. They could have put Zia Yusuf in there, right?
But this is the thing, because I wondered to myself, well, if they really wanted it that bad, they should have put someone higher profile. But I think they always knew it was going to be blimmin' hard to win. And the problem is, if you put someone intrinsic to the central team into a battle like that and they lose, it is bad for that person. Do you know what I mean?
It's not just bad for the person. I think Reform have taken a hit as a result of this.
I think so, but yeah.
But let's not forget how big a hit Restore have taken, by the way. 3,111 votes was massively disappointing for them.
I was going to have a day. I mean, I know I mentioned him earlier, but I was going to have a day off.
Oh, okay, sorry, but just to say, I think because I want to round this circle off, and that's that with Kemi, Nigel, and of course Restore, there has to be a collaboration. If you don't believe so, then you didn't pay attention to what happened in Makerfield. Because Makerfield isn't a microcosm of absolutely everything. Andy Burnham isn't the best because he won in Makerfield, but the right are weak because of what happened in Makerfield.
And that we saw in Makerfield most clearly that the left wing all voted for Burnham. The left wing are very good at making pacts and doing tactical voting. They don't mind.
The other thing...
But this poison that has been generated in the form of, creating this entity with Rupert Lowe to attack Reform, that's all it's supposed to do. It's supposed to weaken and attack Reform, and it's doing a very good job of that. It is succeeding. But, the Conservatives playing these games, they don't know what they're messing with. They are creating a bit of a monster here. And, yes, they think it's going to get them back behind the leaves of power. They don't care about the country. This is what I hate about... I hate when political parties do this, when they create factions, when they play games, when they say, well, let's generate this just to attack that. Let's stop treating us like this.
Yes.
Stop it. Just focus on building up your party, writing a manifesto, researching policy, and give it to us to decide upon. Stop playing the games in the shadows of, having a little puppet here and a psyop over there, and let's try and take someone down like this. Let's build this plot to do that. We are done with it. That is why the Conservatives were voted out in the last election. It wasn't the Labour Party being voted in, it was the Conservatives being voted out, and they are still at it. And I am fed up with them.
Yeah.
Just stop it. Just stop it. We don't have time to mess around.
One thing you need to convert in order to win at a national level is what you and I would call the normies. Those people who are just getting on with their life, they're not engaged in politics in the same way we are, and these are not stupid people because they're not engaged in politics. They take one look at the political landscape and they see that's a bin fire, and they just go, look, Andy Burnham, because the left controls the normies. Until the right can get some control over the normies and win the persuasive argument, we're going to keep seeing this, and we'll end up with a coalition of the crazies,
Yeah. What do you think's going to happen, folks? What do you think should happen? How do you feel about all the plots and the factions and the twists and turns of politics? Do you think Starmer should just stay? There's 7 prime ministers in 10 years. It's getting rather farcical, isn't it? I feel sorry for that poor blimmin' cat. 03444991000 is the number to call. We'd love to speak to you guys today. 8722 is the number to send a text message. Write the word talk before you text, and if you'd like to send a WhatsApp, leave us a voice note, sing to us on WhatsApp, do a rap on WhatsApp, especially a rap with a bit of beatboxing. Yeah, we love rap. Anyway, if you'd like to do that as well, it's 03444991000. Let's have some fun today because it's all kicking off in politics. We're also going to be talking later in the programme. You'll like this one. I don't know if you've seen it. This is Tulsi Gabbard, who's an outgoing head of intelligence for Trump. And she's just done a massive file dump on Anthony Fauci and all the lies told to us during COVID. insane. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. The fact that Fauci was the one working or gave all the money for the Wuhan lab to make this blibbing virus that got leaked and then lied about it, lied under oath about it. We're going to be talking to the brilliant Professor Angus Dalgleish, who was the first whistleblower on all of that, because he's the man who knew the exact scientist who stitched the noggin on the bobbin to make the gainer function. Anyway, it's all sort of like cloak and dagger. But we must never forget what happened in COVID. It's all very well being like, oh, well, that was a while ago. It was mad. The lies we were told, the psyop that was put on us is so extreme, and this big dump by Tulsi Gabbard, I think, is going to start, you know, the conversation going again. So we're definitely doing that later. And we've got some other spangly and delightful little stories in the smorgasbord of news, headlines and common sense just for you today. So do stay tuned. The numbers are 03444991000 to call and to WhatsApp 8722 on text like talk. Before you text, I need a fan. Let's take a break.
Yeah, you and I both.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Great to have your company. It is absolutely so. I can't.
Yes, it is
so
warm.
swell. It's the air conditioning.
But I'm
broken
cooling
today
down.
of
I'm
all days.
acclimatising. I had to do a roughly a 2-mile walk this morning from where I parked my car, which is, I appreciate it's not a long way to walk, but it was very hot and I was wearing this jacket. And
Why didn't you just take the jacket?
I don't know.
It's
because I'm an Englishman.
Oh, the mad dog's an Englishman.
I'm not going to walk around London
sun.
without a jacket on, Alex.
Oh, well, you've got to represent. Do you want to see this story? This is a good one first. Bristol City Council, Bristol, never unknowingly anti-woke.
Brizzle.
Oh, blimmin' Brizzle. The council has sparked fury, calling for an ale and cider festival to be cancelled because it should not support alcohol. So this is down to the Green deputy leader of Bristol Council, said the festival, which is run by CAMRA, everyone loves CAMRA, I seek out CAMRA pubs, would not align with the authority's ethics policy. Why? Is Bristol a caliphate? What do you mean, ethics policy? We shouldn't support alcohol. Cider and beer festival. Bristol's like the capital of cider. Well, not quite. It's one of them.
Yes.
But that is just...
Well, what is it they do support then? Because Bristol, the city itself, is a huge student city, which is why it's incredibly left, if not extreme left. They're all big drinkers. Their economy revolves around the entertainment and drinking culture of those younger people, and anyone else who wants to drink, of course. There is only one reason the council could say that, is A, they don't want it to go ahead, and B, they want to stop it going ahead, pulling a lever of some sort of multiculturalism. What they're not saying in there is that it might offend other cultures, but it never offends other cultures, because cultures who don't drink have no idea that festival's going on. You know, and we're specifically likely to be talking here at least about the Muslim culture, but they're not, you know, they're not going. If they don't drink, they're not going, are they?
This is, so basically, there was This festival has been postponed after the council contracted out the management of some of its venues. So it's clearly being held at a council-owned venue, which brought about an increased hiring cost. And then speaking at the Strategy and Resources Policy Committee, this Heather Mack character, the Green deputy leader, said the festival's discounted offering was at odds with the council's policy on alcohol promotion. She said, "We have an advertising and sponsorship policy where, as a council, we should not support alcohol." And then, so this is down to, wait for this, that ethical advertising and sponsorship policy. Like, oh, for God's sake, alcohol is part of British culture. We basically invented
Not anymore.
beer and cider.
I mean, it is.
This is just ill.
We've created a multi-tier system now. It's not even two-tier system, and the standard British person who enjoys things like sausages and beer are now an underclass. It still goes on. You're never going to push it away. It's like prohibition. Just because you don't promote it, you don't need to promote fun stuff. That's the great thing about fun stuff, is people that love fun stuff and they seek it out.
Right, you've got the Green Party in one breath going, well, you know, the council can't support a camera festival because you're alcohol bad, and then at the same time they want to decriminalise A-class drugs. Like,
no, just up the
meth.
Just up the road,
that's great.
the pot and heroin festival, which I understand is incredibly good, is going ahead.
It's not laughed. Oh, I hate it when that happens. But no, it's madness, isn't it? Why?
Well, we know why, don't we? Because it's the Greens are in power. The Greens are anti-British culture. And beer festivals are right at the epicentre of British culture. Look, not everybody who's British, by the way, wants to go to a beer festival. It's for people who enjoy beer and, you know, eating sausages or whatever it might be. And, you know, they should be allowed their thing.
I love the fact that you've done a little hint of what we're doing next weekend. That's right. I've managed to persuade Paul Cox to join me and our little team. Apparently Ratty's not coming now, wimp. But obviously, you know, Dean the Machine, he's going to be there. At the, the annual Cider and Sausage Festival.
Exactly.
With Pat Sharp, tribute acts, an axe throwing competition, a silent disco, 30 different types of ciders, 20 different types of sausages, and us. It's going to be the best Saturday of my life. Yeah.
I hope there's a VIP area. But no, look, we like that sort of thing, and why wouldn't we? But no, it's not for everybody. But this whole idea of equality, right, that they keep banging on about, it's only equality for the few, isn't it? You know, it's 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. It's very Animal Farm. It's very Orwellian. It's we say this, and this is what you must do. It's not live and let live. There's no liberalism about the extreme left whatsoever. There's no liberalism about the Lib Democrats. There's hardly any liberalism left in this country whatsoever. We just need people to be able to live their lives. This country can still be saved. I keep saying it every week on this show.
It's amazing how quickly things can turn around. You look at America and how grim it was getting under Biden. How grim! I was out for dinner with my mate Niall Gardner yesterday. You know, Niall from Heritage.
I really love Niall.
Everyone loves Niall. He's like the most likeable human being on the planet.
And he also winds up some lefties, which I don't like very, very well.
Anyway, he was over in Blighty yesterday, so we went out for some dinner, and he was saying that in America, it's amazing how quickly things are turning around under Trump, and that it's the democratic states which have lawlessness, crime, they're sort of, you know, absolute, you know, gutter trash now, full of all these tents, and, you know, and the Republican states are doing just fine, thank you very much. And I was actually in Florida, and I can vouch for that. And the noise around all the anti-ICE campaign is now dampening down. You've got, you know, the immigration officials going in, doing their raids, getting people out. And you know, free speech is back. And I think that with the right government, these things can change very quickly.
Yes, because I think because of the factor I was talking about earlier with regards to what we call normies, not disparagingly, just people that are getting on with their lives and not as engaged in politics as we are. If we can make them feel safer, and that's not difficult, because the way you make people feel safer is you change the news cycle, not by lying about what's happening, but actually stopping all the evil things that are happening so the news cannot, you know, talk about it because it's not existing. And they'll start to feel safer. And if they see that's attributed to a certain type of politics, like Trump in the US, where he's completely closed the border and he's made law and order important again, and basically said to people, you should respect law and order, which is basically what the glue that keeps us all together. And in doing so, in those Republican states, he has changed people's cognitive understanding.
Yeah. People can actually see things are better, and that's what we need in this country, a little bit of right-wingery. Oh, we haven't had it for so long. Right, let's take a short break. After the break, we're going to be taking a call. We've got Mary in Cyprus waiting on the line. We're going to read some of your messages as well, so keep things coming in. It's going to be a whole day of chatteroo, I think. 03444991000 is the number to call. It's your normal network rate. So what are you waiting for? That's also the number for WhatsApp. Voice notes, please. Come on, give us some jingles, some songs, some rap, a rhyme, a poem, a limerick.
A haiku.
A haiku. Politique. 87222 is the number to text like the word talk before you text. We're back just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. I am so hot. I'm wilting. Welcome back. I hope it's cool where you are. Does anyone want to nip down to London Bridge and come into the studio and just stand in the corner with a big fan and waft Paul and I?
That would be great.
Like, we've got newspapers you could use. Maybe we should just waft each other across the desk like this.
That'd be amazing.
Right, let's do some of your messages. Alex, think about this. Do I have to on a Sunday? Miliband would not give any money from his energy budget for defence. If he becomes Chancellor, we may as well fly white flags from every pole. We're already at that. Oh, did you see the story today? Where was it? Which paper? About, it's brilliant, about how, when the Marines went to get on the Putin's Shadow Fleet vessel in the Channel. Yes. One of these sort of contraband banned oil tankers. There was a report, I've got to find it, that basically Keir Starmer phoned up and said, look, you've got to do this to help save my skin. We've got to look tough. It was basically staged. That was what the allegation is.
Yes, and I'd heard that as well, just from people outside of media that had said, because they track ships, I know people that, because I live in Portsmouth and grew up around the Royal Navy, I know people are interested in these things, and they're saying these ships pass through all the time because a ship's nationality is determined by which flag it's flying. It doesn't mean that's where it's come from. It just means that's where it's registered, and that's how you can avoid all sorts of nasties. But Russia know this, and these ships are and by the way, the Russian Navy are coming through the Channel all the time. So this is just something they knew that they could do as a show of strength, but of course it didn't show any strength whatsoever.
I think it had been something like, since the outbreak of war with Ukraine, when these vessels were sanctioned, about 700 odd have passed through UK waters without intervention, and all of a sudden everything's looking a bit gnarly for Starmer, and look, the Marines are getting on one of those vessels. I hate it when people, again, it's these games. Can we just stop with games and just do politics properly and honestly? Now, let's speak now to Mary, who's in Cyprus. Good morning, Mary. It's hot here. How hot is it where you are?
How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, my darling. I mean, I'm moaning about how hot it is in the studio, but I bet it's a blibbing hot in Cyprus.
Well, it's quite nice, about 30 odd. What I wanted to say was, I don't think that Keir Starmer should resign.
Why not?
And the reason I think that is he should tell Andy Burnham, look, you've just been elected as a Labour MP, fine. But I'm here in this position, having been elected as the Labour Party leader, and also I've won a general election. But what I will do, I will put you in a cabinet position, go and sort out the immigration policy, and when all that's sorted, we'll have a little chat.
I think that's perfectly valid. I totally agree, by the way. And I think if there is a sort of anointment or coronation, I mean, the rumour has it that Starmer's going to, if he steps down back West Streeting, that's a kiss of death, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's West done for. But I think there absolutely should be a quick election. Boris Johnson did it when he took over as leader of the Conservative Party. That was in the September time. I think by the December, you know, the general election was announced. So it's conducted in the December. It's totally anti-democratic. It is totally against all principles of representation, of having a plebiscite. If you just suddenly go, oh, well, let's change Prime Minister. We don't know what he's going to do. It's a completely new manifesto. We've got no idea what he stands for. And only 20,000 people have the opportunity to decide on whether this happens. But I agree with you. I think that, you know, if there is going to be any sort of contest, and also, like you said, Burnham needs to prove himself. You're right, they should put him into cabinet, into something like, you know, sort out NHS waiting lists and let's have a conversation, or sort out the boats and let's see if you've got, you know, the minerals to do the job of Prime Minister. Not just a meme, not just voting in Andy for us meme to run the country. I mean, what have we become?
Mary, look, good morning, Mary. Paul here. Look, I agree with you on this entirely. There's only, whether we like it or not, there's only one man with a mandate to be Prime Minister, and that's Sir Keir Starmer. That's what happened in July 2024. If even if Andy Burnham was to lead on exactly the same manifesto, he wouldn't have been the man that was voted to lead it. So we have to have a general election in order for him to deliver anything, even if it's the same thing. But if he wants to deliver any change, surely there has to be a general election, because we all have to have a say on that, whether that's what we want or not.
Yeah, I think we need to keep pushing it.
Exactly. I mean, you see, actually, Andy Burnham mentioning the name, the hairs on my back stand on end. I can't stand the thought of it. But I couldn't really with Keir Starmer either. But at least we've got the devil we know rather than the devil we don't know.
Well, look, I totally agree. And for me, it's just simply a matter of principle. Now, people have said about various defections when people have come over to reform, should they have held by-elections? I kind of think yes, if I'm honest. You know, that was always a UKIP policy. When people defected to UKIP, they'd say, right, we'll, you know, run them in the seat and see if they'll get voted in under our banner. And I think that should be a principle, because it is, you know, the correct thing to do politically, democratically.
I live in Suella Braverman's constituency, and whilst I was very happy that she went to reform, I also believe that everybody else in my area didn't necessarily believe the things that I did, and that probably should have gone back to the vote, because it's the only way you can have legitimacy about your position in political life is if you've been voted in. If you're just jumping around because it suits you politically, then it's not fair on the constituents.
And, you know, in that respect, which Suella do you have in Portsmouth? So people might have voted in Suella the Conservative because they liked the Conservative manifesto, and then suddenly it's Suella the Reformer, and they might go, well, we don't like that. I mean, people, regardless of, you know, which party you support, I think it should be a principle that if there's going to be, you know, swap shops, that the public should be able to have the final say, because that is what democracy is all about.
Yes, well, there you go. I mean, the whole situation is absolutely ridiculous anyway. That's just my point of view. And I'm living in Cyprus, but living here for 20-odd years, I've just seen Britain go down the pan slowly. You know, it's sad. It's sad. Yeah. We don't recognise Britain as when we left it.
Oh, I know. I don't recognise it, and I'm still in it. Although I have escaped the wilds of London. I feel like London's... I don't know if I've got, like, good summer vibes at the moment, but I kind of... Maybe it's because I live outside it, and so I just pop back in at the weekend, so I get to enjoy going to the theatre and going to restaurants, and that's it. But I've started to re-like London a little
London's
bit more
always
lately.
good in the summer. It's a nice place to be, irrespective of what the dangers are. I've always enjoyed London in the summer. It's a great place to be. I mean, it's not as good as the other places you can go, like on the coast or out into the countryside.
Well, basically, it's not as good as anywhere outside of London.
but it does make London look... You know, when you take the there's sort of an anti-human nature about London. You know, it's an old adage to say that people don't talk to one another, and they don't, because most people don't speak the same language. There's every different nationality here, every different culture. We're all told that we must get on, even though we don't see eye to eye. But the sun comes out, everyone ignores all that, and it seems okay. Then the sun goes back in again, and we suddenly realise the dystopia we're in.
That's true. It's too hot for people to wear those blooming COVID masks and balaclavas and hoodies.
Still do,
Maybe
though.
that's why.
Still do.
Oh, they still do. Brilliant. Anyway, Mary, thank you so much for calling us all the way from
Thank you,
Cyprus.
Mary.
Let's do some messages, because there's loads here. Chris has put loads in my box. So let's get through them. I like this one. I'm a Conservative voter, but after what Kemi has said about not doing a deal with Farage, it shows she doesn't really care about the people. So I'm now a Reform voter. There you go. Didn't work on Paul, Kemi. But I agree with you. I'm fed up with the Conservatives playing games. That's all they ever do. Games, 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 games. Try and run a blimmin' country for a change. We might not be in the mess we were in if you'd spent 15 years doing that, rather than faction fighting, musical chairs, plotting and power games. Oh, none of these politicians care for the country. They're all out for power. Every one of them, says Paula. There you go. In Great Dunmow.
Oh, wow.
It's Great Dunmow.
Dunmow sounds Scottish to me.
Yeah, the dun bit to me sounds Scottish.
Yeah,
Mao, I'm not sure. It sounds Chinese.
Yeah, there was a famous Mao,
There was a famous Mao back then. The best thing Starmer can do is make an appointment with the King to dissolve Parliament. I actually think in many respects that's correct. If you're in a position where your Prime Minister is so weak that some meme has decided they're going to take over power, then, yeah, just
Andy
dissolve
Burnham, by the way,
get the general.
terrible record at national level, a terrible record at fighting leadership battles, lost to Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, who you could put up a sock against and they would still do quite well. So the idea that Andy Burnham's the answer, it does not stand up to any scrutiny whatsoever.
If Andy Burnham's the answer, what's the question?
Yeah, well, that's a great point.
What's the question? Alex, Paul, I love you two to bits, says Steve, but in capitals.
Oh, God. Steve, don't do a but.
You slate the professional politicians, too slick, never had a proper job, etc. Then when we get an ordinary bloke like Rob Standing, you want him to be talking as slick as the professionals. Generally, we can't have both. It's a good point, well made. But there is a middle ground. There's a middle ground between people who just churn out lines all the time. You know, you say to them, so what is your policy on turning back the votes? Well, breakfast clubs, you know, there's that, which is hateful and ridiculous and farcical. And then there's also someone who hasn't had experience of the rough and tumble. And it's more as well that until you've been in frontline politics, you have no idea. You have no idea how awful it can be on you, your family, your friends. I mean, Rob Kenyon, 1 minute, was an ordinary bloke, a plumber, living his best life. Now his entire social media history has been shared with the country. You have to have a really thick skin for this stuff.
So I 9 times out of 10, I would thoroughly agree with Stephen. In fact, I've probably on record in saying exactly what Stephen has said. However, one thing became apparent with Makerfield is the sort of the bubble was slightly burst, and burst for me also because it was quite stark. And then you have to have a wash up and say, well, why was that? Now, none of the right-wing candidates were particularly good. I mean,
didn't even see that Tory one.
we didn't even see the Restore one.
Oh no, she wasn't allowed to be seen.
So
she just had to sort of stand there and
So
smile.
I don't even sure she was at the count. And what does that tell you? If you are,
that's a party for women and girls. Don't forget.
Well, it didn't seem that way during that. But one thing I would say is, Robert just seemed like a really nice, genuine guy. But he had some questions to answer, and he didn't answer them very well. You know, I'm a comedian who does political commentary, and I'm sure if somebody went through my social media history, they wouldn't find any of that sort of misogyny type stuff, but they would find me sharing what people would deem questionable opinions or views. But I would stand by them. And I would also say to the party that put me in that position, you are going to stand by them too. But also, because if you don't like it, don't put me there.
But also what you've got to understand is the way that they engineer these things. Burnham and the guy who stood down, Alan I can't know what his name is now.
Josh, what's his face?
Josh Simons. That's it. Alan Simmons, Josh Simons, interchangeable.
Generic guy.
But, you know, they would have decided that a long time before, so they'd have got their campaign materials ready. They didn't need to select the candidate. They knew who the candidate was. They'd have built up what the messaging strategy would have been. They'd have made all those meme posters. They would have, you know, polled Makerfield and known what public opinion was. They'd have figured out what the main issues on the doorstep were. They would have been able to figure out which constituencies to target with Get Out the Vote with all of that doorstep data. And then it was 4 days for every other party to find a candidate and be battle ready. And in politics, you know, these things really do matter. If you have that sort of first move advantage and get to call the shots, it can make or break a campaign.
Also lose, but lose well.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to go up against, in a constituency that is 120 years Labour, 1903, and come what may, irrespective of Brexit, irrespective of whether 97% of them are white or not, they vote Labour. That's all they know how to do, right? But go into that thinking second's good, but lose well.
Yeah.
The right did not lose well. The wash up on the right so far is still being washed up because we're continually pointing out all of the mistakes that were made. There needs to be a coalition. We need to coalesce, and we need to get the right people making the right arguments, because we can't say that what we learned from the right in the Makerfield by-election is what's going to be extrapolated out across the country. We don't know what we're going to get still, and this is what is turning the normies off.
People just want normal democracy back, where we've got good quality candidates with policies and we pick people based upon the package they're offering the country. Let's take a short break, but don't go anywhere because we're back just after this.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. I do love a broadsheet newspaper. I think they're really quite a wonderful thing, but it's like, you know.
I still remember delivering them as a newspaper boy. I used to get £5 a week to deliver. This was 1992, 93. And then an extra 50p, 10% of my entire wages to do the Sunday papers, and that was a two-bagger.
It's interesting. I used to be a paper girl for a while with my brother.
It was, the Sunday round was horrific.
Do they still exist?
I don't know if they do.
Do they?
Do people still get papers delivered?
Don't know, because that's what I'm thinking. They must do.
Please call in.
Does the postman do it? I feel like I've not seen
there's definitely
a paper boy, you know, with the bicycle and the panniers for ages. Do they exist? I want to know.
Yeah.
Let us do a few more messages and then some more stories as well. Linda says, "Hi, Alex. Absolutely love your blouse. Where did you get it?" Oh, well, this is a little number from a shop called Law & Co. in the Cotswolds. Of course, I feel like it's very Cotswolds.
You look very glamorous.
Very Cotswold-esque.
The whole ensemble is great.
Oh yeah, it's got a little matching skirt, but you can't see that under the desk. So there you go. I'm afraid it's not from your average high street. It's from a real high street that still exists with independent shops. Hi, Alex. I think there shouldn't be the option for political parties to be able to coalesce. Stand down your candidate if you must, but the people should vote for their party, not a gang of different parties. It's wrong. But this is the other thing that I said the other day. People keep comparing what's gone on in Makerfield, this split on the right, as the same as UKIP and the Conservative Party 10 years ago. It is not.
No, that's nowhere near
When
the same.
Farage led UKIP 10 years ago, so 2013, 2014, 2015, when the party really started emerging, coming third in things, you know, really challenging the Conservatives, David Cameron was talking about staying in the EU. He signed the Lisbon Treaty. There was no sensible conversation about leaving the ECHR. We had massively open borders. It was hugging hoodies. It was climate change. It was, you know, going up to the North Pole and having a photo taken with some huskies. That was what, you know, the Conservative Party had become. And Farage used to say, rightly so, you couldn't get a fag paper between Labour and the Conservatives. And then at the time, UKIP were considered demonic and evil because they wanted to leave the EU, they wanted to control immigration, and they just said climate change is a load of gumph. And it was seen as so radical, so against the grain, taboo to even say those statements. Well, what's happened now is the world's moved to that position. And you've now got Nigel Farage where he's always been. You've got the Conservative Party trying to pretend they're Nigel Farage when all along they have demonised him, you know, tried everything they can do to kibosh him. And then they've created the concept of Rupert Lowe to be even more Farage than Farage. And it's just like, I'm sitting there going, this is a madness.
It's incredible. At that point, by the way, we hadn't reached the critical mass, which tipped the scales towards where the Overton window is now. And since that's happened, you're absolutely right. The things you were saying then have now become the norm. Also, the convention seemed unbreakable 10 years ago. The two-party system seemed unbreakable. The analogy that always comes to mind when I think about it now is it doesn't matter if this Overton window has shifted because the apparatchik behind it, the system behind it, is still led by the same people. So it's all. If you're against the system, it's as if you're always playing away. You're never playing at home. The rules aren't yours, the fans aren't yours, you're always against, you know, the prevailing winds. So you've got to, this is what I was talking about earlier with Robert Kenyon and playing their game. You've got to look at the rules of the game, whether you like them or not, and play your best game using those rules. You can only change the rules once you've got power. So you have to learn to adapt. And I think to some degree that's what Nigel Farage and Reform have tried to do with some of these somewhat slightly dodgy recruitments of Tory MPs, ex-Tory MPs. Some of those have made reformers like myself look at this and go, that's too much. I don't understand why you're doing that.
Yeah, it's like one or two was okay, and it's like, what are these people doing there?
But I think that's an attempt to say, well, we've got to play the game by the rules that are set for us currently.
Yeah, I think as well, you know, let's sort of play devil's advocates here, because it has been, in many respects, their undoing with their core votes, starting to take on Conservatives, and then people saying, well, you are just the Conservatives. And like I said, it's opened up that flank where they're like, oh, now you're establishment. But at the same time, if they hadn't done that, people say, well, you've got no one with any experience. Nobody in your party has ever been an MP before. No one's ever been in cabinet. What do they know about how Whitehall functions? And it's not just a case of that being a criticism of the party. It's an absolute necessity. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to try and penetrate the Gordian knot of pen pushers, the sort of, you know, behemoth of a, you know, Byzantine bureaucracy that we've got, if you're going to be able to somehow manoeuvre the quangocracy, you know, the OBR, the Supreme Court and all the leftist lawyers, the fact that there won't be anywhere near enough people in the House of Lords who will allow, you know, a reformed government, let's say, to pass through bills and so on and so forth. If you've got to deal with all of that, the muscularity of the state and the deep state, you're going to need some people who know how it works.
And you also have to win hearts and minds in the public, because the only thing that can help you is the weight of public opinion. So once you get in, irrespective of the blob, if you've got a massive constituency, high percentage of people who are with you, i.e. the normies, then the pressure's on. They don't, you know, the norms of the conventions don't stand up to scrutiny anymore, and they've got to capitulate at some point. And let's be honest with ourselves here. It's going, you know, let's say a conservative right wing, and when I say conservative, I don't mean the party. I mean people of conservative right wing politics.
Saucy.
Yeah. Exactly. If they are in power, it's going to take 5 years to a decade to turn that freight round.
Isn't that the problem that we really have now in the United Kingdom? Because even today, so far, everything we've spoken about in this show, you'd think we are in a general election. But it's constant campaigning mode. We have no patience anymore. We have no sort of, you know, give someone a year. Oh, well, you haven't managed to stop every single crisis. You're out. And this is why we've now got this revolving door of party leaders, prime ministers, fractured politics, politics, because you can't satisfy a 24-hour news cycle with all the meat that's put out there on social media. No one's ever happy any of the time.
No.
And also, no one's quietly let to get on with the job. Back in the day, when you just had the 6 and 10, you know, that was it. You got ITV, BBC News, that's it. That's where you got your news from. Some people might have bought a newspaper.
And only half an hour long.
And only half an hour long, and curated, you know. It was much easier for a political party to just get on and do the job. And also that was before all the quangos, before the supranational organisations, before all of the international treaties. They were able to govern, lead, make decisions, effect those decisions, and not have a permanent running commentary like it's a football match of, you know, exactly how someone kicked a ball or headed it, or whether that marker was in the right position. But we just live in this sort of, you know, mad, you know, constant ongoing discussion about politics. Of course, I make money from it. It's my job.
Yeah.
But it does, you know, you do sometimes think, wouldn't it be quite good if we just stopped for a year and let government govern?
Which brings us in a neat circle back to the message about coalescing. This is probably why there needs to be a coalition of ideals on the right, because there just isn't the strength otherwise. It's not like when it was a two-party convention where you were either Labour or you were Tory. When I was growing up, the first 7 years of my life were spent on a council estate. Very, very formative for me, because that meant a lot of working class people surrounded me, and Margaret Thatcher was in power at the time, and her name was dirty.
There you go. Well done for wrapping up. Her name was dirty. We're taking a short break. We'll see you on the other side.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
That's the usual music back. I quite like like the other one, though, Matt. You know, the sort of jazzy one we had when we opened the show. It was quite fun and summery. That's quite fun and summery, but I'm used to it now. Anyway, welcome back to the show. It is Phillips and Cox with you for the next 2 hours, to discuss everything going on in the news. We're going to read out messages. We're going to take some calls. We've got some great guests lined up as well, so you don't want to go anywhere. And the conversation is spinning around today with everything going on in politics. It is expected, at least so the newspapers are saying, that Sir Keir Starmer might be laying out his Liverpool pathway, let's call it, the road to resignation, as early as tomorrow. I mean, this is what they do. They stick things in newspapers saying, well, he's probably going to resign tomorrow. Then when he doesn't, it adds to the pressure. Let's do some messages before we speak to the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, who I understand is currently being mic'd up by our very own Freddie somewhere in Westminster. I think Nigel wanted Andy Burnham to win to seal a better victory on the next election, because we all know Burnham is going to be a political car crash for Labour. I don't think that's true. I think Reform wanted to win that seat. I think they really wanted to win that seat, but what I do agree with is I think that, you know, Nigel's even suggested that it's this himself. What will happen is the Labour Party will tag even more to the left. It's going to destroy everything, crash and burn the economy, and then we will get the early general. Although I think they just need to pile on the pressure to have an early general if they're going to change the Prime Minister.
And I think they'll fancy an early general election as well. Andy Burnham will be buoyed by what happened in Makerfield. The mistake they'll make, and I'm sure they will just put through hubris alone, is that they'll see what happened in Makerfield and say that's going to be replicated across the country. We might get a smaller majority, but the winds are with us now. And of course they're not. They're not at all. I'm not sure how it would look, a general election now, but there would definitely be a coalition for my money. I just don't know which way it would go. And it would require the type of rhetoric from Kemi and Nigel and Rupert to entirely change.
Well, quite. Let's talk about that right now. We're joined by Mel Stride, MP, who's also the Shadow Chancellor in the Conservative Party. Good morning to you, Mel. First of all, I've seen you've got a social media video up, a very snazzy one, about what you guys would do with the economy. So walk me through your main points of what you think the recipe for growth is.
So the recipe for growth is many, many different things. There's no easy lever to pull, or somebody would have pulled it, but they are broadly, firstly, getting taxes down, particularly on businesses, growth and jobs. That means getting on top of public spending, particularly welfare, getting people off benefits and into work. It means a revolution in skills, so it means looking at higher education, where too many young people are going to university and would have been actually better off had they not done so, but investing very heavily in apprenticeships and skills. It's going to mean a lot of supply side things like getting planning sorted out so that we can build houses and roads and reservoirs and rail and all of those kind of things. It means getting our energy costs down so that we can compete, particularly in an age of artificial intelligence and data centres. And it also means getting back to being an investable economy, which has the kind of buzz of entrepreneurship and people getting involved and taking a chance and a risk that we had perhaps last briefly in the 1980s. So it's all of those things and many other things, and that is the deep thinking that we're doing in opposition to come up with the right solutions to those particular issues.
I think one can sort of imagine we have a crystal ball right now and look into the future and already know our economy is going to be crashed thanks to Rachel Reeves et al. So where is all the money going to come from? Because let's talk a little bit about, you know, we need to increase defence spending as well. I think you'd probably agree with that. There's a lot of areas where we need extra investment. We need more money. The NHS, it doesn't matter how much we chuck at it. The waiting list is still a huge issue. We've still got all the problems with illegal immigration as well, and putting people in hotels or military camps or HMOs. Is the only area that we're going to be able to steal from the welfare bill, or are you looking at other departments that will potentially have to take a hit? Could there be an element of returning to austerity?
Well, no, what we need to do is get on top of a burgeoning public sector bill. Welfare is one of the most egregious examples of that, but there are other areas, and what I set out at our party conference back in the autumn of last year was getting on for £50 billion worth of savings, of which 23 billion was from the welfare budget. But for example, what we have said is that we will take the size of the civil service at least back to the size that it was in 2016, and that means a reduction in headcount, for example, of 25%. That is a huge saving. We've pointed to savings in the international development budget as well. So there are other areas of government, and we will have more to say about that through time. So getting on top of spending is really important. But it's not just about that. It's all the other things that I mentioned about how we turbocharge our economy and get growth going. Because there is no doubt that if you can get growth and productivity up, then of course a lot of these challenges, like spending more on defence, become that much easier.
What makes this Conservative Party so different from the Conservative Party we had for 15 years, which abjectly failed to do many of these things?
Well, I think the Conservative Party in the past did have a number of things that it could point to that were great successes, actually. You know, we were a jobs-creating machine from 2010, 4 million new jobs created. We inherited a deficit that was off the scale, £160 billion, for over 10% of the size of the economy in 2010, and we were getting that down. We brought in welfare reforms, universal credit, for example, that made sure that work always paid more than being on benefits if you're on UC. Michael Gove's education reforms. And on the day of the last election, you know, we had the fastest growing economy in the G7. We had near record levels of employment, near record low levels of unemployment, and we had inflation bang on target at 2%. So let's not get carried away with the idea that everything was a disaster. We did also, though, have, of course, COVID, which shrank the economy by 10% overnight. We had the Ukraine war that imported a lot of inflation that we had to deal with. So we did have particular challenges. But that's not the same thing as saying that we didn't make mistakes along the way. That's certainly true. We have new leadership now. We have a very clear sense of purpose. We have very clear conservative principles which we are applying to our economic thinking and into other areas. And as I think you saw in the Aberdeen South by-election there, you know, when we come forward with the right policies, in that case around energy, oil, gas, preserving and growing
talking
jobs
about
in
that,
our
it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one because clearly that is why you won that by-election. But it was Boris Johnson who put all the net zero targets in. You guys did that. You did that.
So as I say, Alex, we're under new leadership now, and we're very clear on issues like net zero, that we have to wind that stuff back, that it has got us into a place where we are being both uncompetitive against other countries, and also it's affecting living standards and jobs and so on. And Kemi has been very clear about jettisoning the Climate Change Act, for example, scrapping these subsidies and carbon taxes, getting them off people's bills so that we can get those bills down. And in the case of oil and gas, getting beyond this absurdity, which is that we're relying on countries like Norway extracting from the same basin in the North Sea and selling us that gas, which we could be extracting for ourselves. So we're very clear. We have a very clear set of policies in those areas, and that is what is cutting through. Do you know what? If I can say one final thing on Aberdeen South, that is the first Conservative by-election victory in Scotland since 1967, and we got almost half the vote in that particular by-election. And I think that will go down as an important moment for the Conservative Party and its way back.
Let me ask you something. As a right-winger, as a right-wing voter, and I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to have to choose which party on the right wing I think would best represent me. And here are my misgivings, OK? Number one is the Conservative Party could have stopped the net zero, so if they finally decided that a bit too late, quite frankly, whereas I would suggest that from UKIP days, I was there as Nigel Farage's press aide, back in 2012, 2013, he was talking about getting rid of all the mad net zero stuff. He's been consistent on that. You also, with Boris Johnson, presided over record levels of inward migration, which is straining communities even today. The increase in welfare, more and more people signing up, being on benefits, that largely happened as well under your watch. That hasn't happened only in the last 2 years. And so what I'm seeing now is Kemi Badenoch saying, I am more Nigel Farage than Nigel Farage, or I'm going to do what Nigel Farage has always said he would do, vote for me, and I will never do a deal with him. And this, to me, just sounds like vote splitting. This seems to be like party is more important than country. This seems to me, whereas the left wing seems to be very good at getting together, tactical voting, forming pacts. We saw it in Makerfield. We may as well just award them the government for the next 10 years if this is going to be the approach.
But Alex, why would the Conservative Party get involved with reform, which is a party made up of fantasy economists who keep coming out with all sorts of gimmicks and wild ideas of what they're going to do on tax and spending, with absolutely no plan behind those gimmicks and offers to people? Why would we get involved with a party that, you know, when there comes to division, steps out there and pours fuel on the fire? Why would we get involved with a party that is becoming increasingly
toxic? Why would you get involved with Restore Britain?
An increasingly large proportion.
But you would get involved with Restore
possibly
Britain.
Well, look,
Because
what we've got to
she said
be
she
is
she said
we've
she would
got to
rather
be-
work with
we've
Rupert Lowe, so why would you get involved with them? What makes them better? They seem
look,
pretty crazy to
as
me.
I say, look, I think, Alex, one of the things that Makerfield has shown, and some local elections, incidentally, that have been going on. We won back from Reform 2 seats in Essex just this week. What this is showing, I think, is that there is a very clear ceiling for Reform support. And there's something else, which is there is a growing
you would potentially,
proportion of the electorate.
Do you agree with Kemi Badenoch when she says she would potentially work with Rupert Lowe? You agree with that?
Well, I'm not getting any hypotheticals about who works with who.
Well, I'm just asking you a straight question. Do you agree with her on that?
I'm not going to get involved in any hypotheticals about who might work with who. What Kemi and I are both saying is that the answer for this country is a Conservative Party that is united, as we are, is focused on Conservative principles and is doing in opposition that deep and responsible thinking about coming up with solutions to the big challenges that our country faces in the face of a Labour Party that is palpably destroying the economy and a Reform Party that has no answers other than gimmicks and jumping up and down and trying to be noticed. And I think that is beginning, if I may say so, to wear rather thin. And I think what you're going to see over the coming weeks and months is a continuing softening in Reform's position. They've gone down from, as you will know, low 30s in the polls back in the autumn, now down to mid-20s and so on. And there is, as I was trying to say earlier, this growing proportion of the electorate for whom Reform is utterly toxic. And in a world of tactical voting and first past the post, that puts a ceiling on their ability to actually get into government. The answer to the right winning the next election rests with a responsible Conservative Party, and that is what we are creating.
Indeed, I'm very well aware of what the Conservative Party strategy is relating to all of this. I think you've managed to clarify that for me. Thank you ever so much, Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor. Like, literally. I'm like, come on, we know what they're doing. I know what they're doing. You can see it as well. Use your eyes, use your brains. I wish they would stop. I wish they would focus more on look, if they came up with the most banging manifesto I've ever seen, I might be tempted to vote for them. Of course I would. But at the same time, my trust in them is zero. Zero. And I think a lot of the general public feel like that because they presided over net zero, because they presided over record levels of immigration, and because they're still playing silly games. And it's the silly games, more than anything, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. The minute there's a political party who just goes, we're not doing the faction fighting, we're not doing the plotting, we're not doing the briefing out, we're not doing, we're going to back this person, not... The minute someone just does everything straight, that most of the general public would just go, that's my people.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It feels to me like reality is moving far too fast for the Conservative Party at the moment. Listening to Mel Stride there, with all due respect to him, he didn't say anything different. You could have taken his answers to your questions and put them in any timeline over the last 10 years, and it would have been exactly the same. This is toxic. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it's a bit like, listening to somebody who is not willing to admit that there's a problem. So they're just continually saying the same thing. Now, we can only but hope that behind the scenes people are coming to their senses. The smelling salts are out and people are starting to really think about this. But if you're watching this morning and you used to be a Conservative voter and you listened to Mel Stride then, he said nothing to change your heart and mind about the direction of the Conservative Party or where we might go as a country under the Tories.
I think the list of policies were perfectly viable and good, and that's what I'd like to see a government doing.
But that only works if the problem the Tory party have got is over the last 100 years they've spent a good 60 of them in power, 70 of them in power, and we know that when it's really come to it, other than during some periods around before the war and probably in the 50s, in the 50s, and then again in the 80s, they never really did anything about it. In fact, they contributed to the downfall, handed it over to Labour, who just expedited the downfall. But what we've got now is not only the expedition of this downfall, we've got it against a backdrop of a Britain which is totally divided.
Yeah.
You've got people with cognitive dissonance all over the place that are supporting the crocodile that tries to eat them. And it's a really big problem. And anyone who's trying to point out that there is a problem is able to easily still be pushed away, you big racist and bigot.
Oh,
it's nonsense.
I love the fact that Mel, in many respects, almost verbatim, said lines from the little plan I've been exposed to. One day it will get out in the public, I am certain.
One day.
One day. Right, OK, let's take a break now. I want to get calls, I want to get messages, loads of messages to get through. Blimmin' heck, look at you guys. You must all have RSI out there, the amount of texting you're doing. Keep them coming in. 03444991000 is the number on WhatsApp. You can also send me a voice note, a rap, a limerick, a song, a poem, beatboxing, or a haiku on WhatsApp voice note as well. 8722 on the text. Remember to write the word talk before you type your message. Everything's normal. Network rates, etc. It's not going to cost you loads. It's not one of those weird, dodgy phone numbers. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, put the kettle on, or, you know, whatever it is you want to drink at this hour of day, and we'll see you just after this.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Right, let us crack on with some messages. Alex, the clear red flag in the COVID story is all the immunity given to those involved. If genuine nobody left to sue, or world so... I can't read that. If genuine, nobody left to sue, or world so grateful it saved, who would sue? Is my brain not working?
The world is so grateful who is left to sue.
Right.
I guess I understand that to some
Sorry,
degree.
Betty, I didn't quite understand the message. I think my brain just couldn't wrap around the...
Whoa,
wording.
Black Betty.
Whoa, Black Betty, dang.
We don't know.
Best part of the week, Sunday with Alex and Paul, but you could get me locked up, basking in the sun with my headphones on, with bouts of loud laughter. The passers-by thinks I'm mad, says Stuart in the Cotswolds. No wonder you've got it on headphones. Not many righties in our part of the world, is there? We're a dangerous little persecuted minority in them there parts. Now, Alex spent years in Muslim countries where there were pubs and outfit... Betty, you've written it again. Betty, I can't read your words. Right. Spent years in Muslim country where there were pubs out, fitness came with us and drank soft drinks. And when we went with them,
So
I
she's
ignored
saying,
the turkey, bacon and sausages, no offence caused.
right, so she's saying she lived in a Muslim country. She would still
You're
go
like
to the
the
pub.
Betty whisperer.
Yeah. Yes, Betty. I'm tuned into Betty. That she's saying she lived in Muslim countries, and when she did, that those that were Muslim would come out and enjoy British culture in the same way she wanted to, but would do so with soft drinks, and she would ignore her.
Right. I think Betty's predictive text is running the show here, because it was the out fitness came with us, and I was like, what?
She might be dictating. Sometimes
Yeah.
I dictate into the phone and read the messages back later in the day that I sent to a friend and think, how do they understand me?
I mean, we love you, Betty. You're a regular messenger, but this morning I do think your predictive text is having a bit of a game. Steer calmer, Keir Starmer, Luke G from Reading. I know I keep saying it's really easy to mix up.
It's easy to get it
his
wrong.
name.
We won't have to do it very soon.
Morning, Alex and Paul. Lizzie in East Kilbride here. Love watching you two. The show's great, but Paul, please take your jacket off. You're looking really hot.
When did she take? Because now
How are you surviving?
I'm okay now, though. I haven't cooled right down. I've a clump.
Are you
Should
in
I
a
take it off on
situation
air?
where you can't take it off because the wet patches under
No.
your armpits are going to be so massive?
I couldn't afford the whole shirt, so there's only the front bit. No, I'll tell you what, I'll take it off in the break, 'cause if I take it off now, all my bits and bobs will pop out.
Oh,
By
yeah.
which I mean technology, not my actual bits and bobs.
Thank goodness. I'm already having to fan myself. It's getting hot in here. It is madly hot, and I can actually see the air conditioning is, as low as it can go, as cold as it
I've
can go.
acclimatised now. Like I said earlier, I had to do a bit of moderate exercise, which came as some surprise to my body.
And here we go. Morning, Alex and Paul. Even if you hate Farage, people have to hold their nose and vote for him. Don't let hatred for one man overcome the future for our children and grandchildren. Yes, I do believe we're living the Biden years here in the UK, and we all know what happened there. Landslide. And that's another lie Starmer came back with. Biden is fit and sharp as ever, which we all knew was a blatant lie.
I get the sentiment behind that, but it's very difficult to persuade people to vote for people they hate. If someone said the same to me, like, you've got to vote for Andy Burnham, you might hate him, but it's good for the country, I'd go, no. I'd vote for almost anyone else because it's not a persuasive argument. You're not going to tell me what to do. So whilst I agree entirely with the sentiment, what I do believe is there's still a massive job to do to win hearts and minds. I mean, Mel Stride there just said that reform are toxic. So if reform are toxic, huge great swathes of the public are toxic and therefore are alienated again. It's the same old divisive politics.
I just felt the Conservative messaging was all over the place there. It's like, we want to do all the things that Nigel Farage wants to do, but they're too soft and then they're divisive. And I was just like, Mel, where are we going with this? I mean, look, I'm naturally a right-wing voter. So once upon a time, I, was a Conservative voter. And then I just, lost... when David Cameron came in, that was it for me. I was just like, well, you ain't Conservative anymore, are you? And it's nice to see the Conservatives being Conservative. And if it was in a situation where Reform were doing badly and only the Conservatives could form a majority... would I vote Conservative? Probably.
Yeah.
Or if suddenly Rupert Lowe was normal. But, I just go simply on policy and what I want for the country. But this is my problem with them. The games they can't help themselves. They don't care about doing politics. They just care about faction fighting, power, coups, plots. It's just, stop it.
The Tories are not holding Reform's feet to any fires. It's the other way around. The reason the Conservatives are talking in the Conservative manner again is because Reform are on the scene. There was a lot of talk during the by-election about Restore being a brand new right-wing party. So are Reform still, just slightly less new. They really are. And
people are talking like they've been around 100 years.
Yeah, Reform have been around, I mean,
Nigel kind of has.
Yeah, but not Reform.
Yeah.
And, look, I understand if I was in Conservatives, I'd probably be advising them to do a similar thing. But the idea that it will ever stand up to scrutiny, that the Tories are holding Reform to anything, is for the birds. The only reason the Tories are talking the way they do is because Reform and Nigel Farage are on the scene.
Like I said, at the moment, the splits on the right, it's not like any of those three entities are offering wildly different ideologies. They've never been more similar. The splits on the right, it's just... pointless.
If the Tories point to Makerfield, then it's a ridiculous argument because Makerfield suggests that there's no other party other than Labour and Reform.
Yeah.
That's all it suggests because Tories are out of the way.
How did you do in that by-election, Tories in Makerfield? Oh, yeah, 2%. Shall we do a call now or shall we do some voice notes? Let's do some voice notes first. Here's Daz.
Morning, Alex and Paul. Darren from Warsaw. Working on a Father's Day again. Hey ho. Old Bentley Burnham calling a general election. Ain't good about for two reasons. One, he'd need a set of kahunas to do it, which he ain't got. See Gordon Brown for details. Bottled it. And two, he'd have to convince all these useless, idiotic backbenchers that he's the man, because he's drank his own Kool-Aid and he will win and he will sweep across the board, because they ain't going to get 90 grand a year jobs with 150 grand expenses anywhere. They'll be lucky to get a job flipping burgers, half of that lot.
Well, there you go. I think the thing is Burnham, because there will be a Burnham bounce, there will, if he becomes Prime Minister, because there always is this sort of sense of something's new, something's wonderful, everyone supports it. I actually think his best tactic would be to say to his backbenchers, you've got to support me. I mean, look, I think he should call a general election, because I think that is morally right and democratically right. But if he doesn't do that, what I would suggest is essentially saying to his backbenchers, pass this blimmin' welfare bill, or else I will call a general election, and a number of you will probably lose your seats. But no one really knows what Burnham stands for.
He's had no scrutiny whatsoever. His record isn't particularly good. He's running on vibes and the fact he likes Oasis. That's what he's running on. So as soon as they start scrutinising, there is going to be problems. And he will be scrutinised by the Labour Parliamentary Party as well as the broader membership, because he will have to win a leadership battle first. So in order to do so, whoever goes up against him, streeting or otherwise, Al Gans maybe, they're going to expose him for what he is, because they're going to have to ask him some difficult questions. And we're going to learn a lot more about Burnham over the summer. Now, I believe, Labour Party believe, well, because of the recess in the summer, they've got oodles of time. What they're saying there is they're willing to waste oodles of our time.
I wonder, because I think they know, they've seen the Conservative Party tearing chunks out of each other in leadership contests, and I think a lot of people in Labour will know, look, if we do this, what you're saying will come to pass. So I wonder how much of a leadership contest there will be. I'm sceptical at the idea that there will be one. I think there could be a coronation. Sort of coronation.
So West Streeton stands aside.
Yeah, I think so. But let's see. I don't know, because I've never been in the Labour Party. I don't know their psychology. I don't know how they function. But what I do know is, you know, as much as I don't like the left wing, they're so much better at organising internally than the right wing are, it seems. Let's listen to Karen.
Hi, Alex. Stop going on about Restore. Every day that you're on talkTV, you're putting aside quite a lot of time to attack Restore. Nigel Farage is not the man we think he is. He left UKIP the day after he got the Brexit vote done, stood down 320 people so that Boris could get in. We got the Boris wave. So I'm sorry, Nigel Farage is not the man for this country. I'm really sorry about that, because I actually did a lot of campaigning for reform. But they also not very good with women, are they, Alex? You know, I know someone who got the sack simply because she was a woman. She stood up against someone who's still in reform. So you know what? We're turning to Restore, because I think Restore will do it. They'll do the painful stuff. Nigel's not going to do the painful stuff. He's not going to turf out people from social housing or deport, because that's why he got rid of Rupert Lowe, remember? Didn't like the fact that he said mass deportations are needed.
I don't want to talk about Restore. It's some stupid little blimmin' online thing. There you go. You said I keep talking about Restore and I shouldn't, so I'm not going to bother. Thanks, Karen, though. I do appreciate your message. Let's listen to Dean.
Hi, Alex. Just like to say, bye-bye, Starmer. You tried to harm the pensioners. You tried to harm the weak and disabled. Now the boot's on the other foot. Ta-ra, you clown.
Well, bye-bye, Starmer, indeed.
Interesting approach. Did he try and harm the disabled? I think he tried to give them more, didn't he?
Don't know. On that front, I'm not. That's not an area of expertise.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, he's done a lot of stuff to harm the country. Farmers, businesses. It's just been a joke, this government. Joke from the start. Although I think that what Burnham could preside over would be even worse.
I agree.
Should we do a call? Let's speak to Carol in Cornwall. Good morning, Carol.
Oh, good morning. I was listening. I didn't catch all of Mel Stride, but I caught most of it, I think. And I think, you know, I do not know. I was a lifetime Conservative voter. I do not know any of my compatriots who would vote Conservative again. We don't trust them. They lied to us. They manipulated us. We just don't trust them. And as for Kemi's saying, you know, that she's got a new manifesto and she's going to do this, she's going to leave the ECHR, etc., etc., she still has a load of Liberal Democrats on her back benches. She says they're going to have to agree to her manifesto before they're going to be allowed to stand. Well, they can agree to it because they're adept at lying, right? So they can agree to it, but when it comes to voting, they'll vote against her. She's not to be trusted.
It's interesting you say that. Like, a couple of messages completely echo what you're saying. Diana in West London says the Tory party is the partner who messed you around for 14 years, but say they've changed. Zero trust, never again.
That's
and
right.
Faz in the Cotswolds says, I was a Conservative voter listening to Mel Stride. We've heard it all before, nothing new. I'm not going to fall for this again. It does feel like that. You know, both of those. It does feel like we've been in an abusive relationship with the Conservative Party and government, saying one thing, doing another, plots, faction fighting, power struggles, games, gaslighting, lies, failure of delivery. And you know, the voters aren't stupid. They do have relatively short memories, but not that short.
No, good morning, Carol. Paul here. Look, it's interesting to hear what you have to say about the Conservatives down in the West Country. I'd be interested to understand what the sort of support is for Nigel Farage down there. Is Nigel Farage and Reform becoming the go-to for ex-Conservative voters?
Ones that I know, yes. They're not... They're like me. We're not 100% sure of Nigel Farage, to be honest. Yeah. We're not 100% sure. But where else do we go? This is the question. We can't touch Labour. We can't touch the Conservatives. And as for the other lunatics, well, we don't even think about them. The thing is that Reform appears to be the only alternative. But I don't think any of us are 100% that they're going to be able, to, one, to do it, and two, that they have the ability to overcome the horrific situation they will inherit.
Yeah, no, I agree. For anybody becoming government, it's going to be a blimmin' tough task, and for a party that has lots of inexperienced people in it, it's yeah. I mean, you do, but we've got to be optimistic that someone somewhere somehow can save us. But echoing what Carol is saying, John in Wallington says it's the same old Tories. Don't be deceived. Simon in County Down, the Tories lied to the country for 14 years. The end, no matter how they spin it. So Kemi is more Farage than Farage, yet she refused to get rid of most of the EU laws that are still hampering this country. Basically, I'm getting peed off with these people playing politics with our lives. Theirs is sorted, but they just love throwing ours on the bonfire, says Steve. I mean, this is the thing. I don't think people are ready to buy back into the Conservative brand. Right, thank you so much for your call, Carol. Let's speak now to another Paul, double Paul situation going on here. This one's in the West Midlands. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Alex.
Hello, my love. What's on your mind?
I know, I've been wondering for a long time now. Labour has something over 300 MPs running this country. Why do they need another one to be voted in to take charge of running the country? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you... Yeah, I see. This is the thing. Unless you're going to change the party, what's the point in just changing the leader? You know, either they've got a prospectus and ideology that's going to work for this country, or they do not. Changing the character at the top is not necessarily going to change anything.
No. Good morning, Paul. By the way, great name. Excellent name, in fact. There are characters within that Labour Party that could be seen as slightly different. Al Khan's, for instance, maybe even Healey. Is there anybody within Labour that you would consider to be worthy of running this country?
No.
Good answer.
No.
I feel exactly the same.
An embarrassment. Every time you listen to them, every time they come out, they don't know what they're on about. Or they don't make any sense.
You're in the West Midlands, Paul, is that right?
The name's Michael, actually. Yeah, sorry,
oh, is it? Your name's Michael.
Oh, what? That's come on my screen as Paul.
It's definitely got Paul. Sorry.
It's not Paul, it's Michael. Who knows? Michael might not even be in the West Midlands.
Michael, I'm ever so sorry. You're in the West Midlands, are you, Michael?
Yes, right, yeah.
So traditionally that would have been Labour voting country, I assume?
Never voted Labour in my life.
Right, OK, good for you, man. So you would have voted for Conservatives, is that right?
Yes.
And would you vote Reform now?
I'm a little bit got thoughts about that.
It's interesting, isn't it? We've had that quite a lot. People saying, I can't vote the Conservatives anymore, but they're really not bought into Reform. But there are a lot of messages coming in that are sort of very much, we can't stand the Conservatives anymore. Alex, geez, Mel Stride, we've all heard all these promises before. Fantasy, Conservative resurrection, pile of dung. Once fooled, you know the rest, says Richard in Leicester. All the things Mel Stride has said have already been said by Reform. You had 14 years, Mel. You messed up. Time for a change, says Sasha in Norfolk. And this one, which is just so succinct. Anyone who trusts the Tories again is a bloody fool. From Unnamed. Anyway, thank you ever so much for your call, Paul. Not Paul, non-Paul, Michael. Oh, we should just all be called Paul for the rest of the, next hour and 20 minutes. That'd just make life easier for me.
Yeah, that'd make life easier for me, for sure.
All right, we're going to take a break. Keep your wig on, Matt. Anyway, we'll see you on the other side.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Paul just told me that he had a fall the other day, so if you get past a certain age, you don't trip over, you've had a fall.
Yeah, I literally fell in the woods as well, and I thought that's it, it's all over, because no one's going to be able to come and find me. I'm just going to lay here, and this is how they're going to find me.
Over winter, I went out for a hike, and it was really frosty, really hard ground. There's a beautiful part of the Cotswolds called Sapperton. But it's quite sort of some steep hills. But it was like a ski slope. And even though I had my good hiking boots on, it's just me walking along, I slid really far down with boof, and I lay there on the frozen ground, and I was like a beetle. I couldn't get back up. And I thought to myself, what a way to go.
Yes.
At the age of 42.
I was all sort of shocked and discombobulated. I sat there, I was walking my dog, and she just licked my face as if to say, we're going to carry on with the walkies or what? Because I ain't going to sit here for long. And I just didn't know if I could get up again.
And I thought, I had that thing at winter. It's like you get it at a certain age when you fall over and you just say, I might just lie here.
This'll do.
I live here now. This is it. Just, I'll stay here until someone digs a hole and puts me in it.
I'm just always worried someone would recognise me, just laying in the woods and go, I knew you'd be doing this, you dirty what name. I fell over.
Wow, what a sight, what an image. I don't thank God we've got a caller, is all I can say, so I don't have to look at you. Right, let's speak to Maria in Gloucester, which is also the name of my next-door neighbour, actually, Maria. Hello there, Maria, how are you doing?
Hello, Alex Bellin. Hi, I'm from down Gloucestershire, the same as you.
Hey, good lass.
Hey, I'm a good lass. All my friends who live down here, who live near me, we all vote Reform.
Oh, I feel like I reckon I could guess which part of Gloucestershire you're in just from that intel. I'm going to guess you're in the west of Gloucestershire.
Well, I don't know about west, south, east, and west, and all the rest of the crap. Whereabouts are you?
Who needs a compass?
I mean, I actually don't come from Gloucestershire. I come from, I don't know quite where I come from. I was born in abroad when I was in 1951, so I've lived all over the world. But I live actually in Stroud.
Oh, no, that's very Green Party around there. Lots of hipsters.
Oh, you're having a laugh.
Oh, but I know there's a lot of normies. My family date back to... I've got as far back on my family tree as 1530, and we're basically all from King Stanley. So basically, I'm, born and bred Stroud. I was actually born in Gloucester, but...
King Stanley. I know King Stanley well. My husband lived there. No, not the Green Party. No. All my friends are normal, actually.
Hey! Not many of those in Gloucester. Listen, Maria, I'm going to have to love you and leave you because we have a guest ready for this segment. It's the brilliant Poppy Coburn, who is the assistant comment editor for The Telegraph. Thank you for joining us, Poppy. Right, let us get to the grisly matter of politics and what is going on. There's rumours saying that tomorrow might be the day that Starmer lays out his pathway to departure. What do you know? What have you heard?
Well, you know, for once we actually seem to have an almost cast iron guarantee that Starmer's going to leave, because I think we've all been promised that the Prime Minister is going to resign week after week after week. Everyone seemed to have said, how can he possibly survive this latest humiliation? And yet somehow he did. He continued limping on. But I think he's finally realised now, after Andy Burnham's stunning by-election victory, that he cannot hold his position anymore. So we heard yesterday that multiple cabinet ministers were going up to him and saying, you've got to go. Either we are going to throw you out, which will obviously be humiliating, or you can set out a timeline and then you can kind of keep a little bit of face in the meantime. So I think at the moment, the most likely option is tomorrow morning, Keir Starmer will address the nation and say, I will resign, not right now, but at some point in time, probably just before party conference season around October. So we haven't seen the back of him yet, I imagine.
Right, and it's interesting, actually, the idea that he would sort of carry limping on as a Prime Minister who's already, you know, agreed to walk out the door. It sort of completely loses any power or any respect he might have. Do you think there will be a leadership contest, though? Because my feeling is if the Labour Party had any sense, they'd see what the Conservatives did to themselves and think, easier just to sort of coronate Andy Burnham.
I think up until we actually saw the margin by which Andy Burnham had won the by-election, the general consensus in the Labour Party was that there was going to be a contest. But now Burnham's allies are pushing very, very hard for a quick coronation for him, because there are actually some serious contenders that could go up against him. I mean, John Healey is one person that someone has mentioned as a kind of continuity Starmer. He's more on the right of the party. You've obviously got left-wing figures as well. He might put their names in the hat. Probably not Ed Miliband, because Ed Miliband has been telling everyone he wants to be Andy Burnham's Chancellor, so he wants an upgrade on his job. It's been very heavily briefed that Rachel Reeves is going to be sacked tomorrow, regardless of what happens. So I think the likelihood of Andy Burnham actually being coronated as our next Prime Minister is unfortunately quite high now.
So, Poppy, hold on. Wow, like you just said something that's made me go, that to me is almost a sort of slightly bigger story, which is Rachel Reeves is going to be sacked tomorrow. I mean, it's that sort of, obviously, if she's sacked, she'd have to be replaced with somebody. Any idea whose names are in the hat? And also, my big the reason why that's interesting to me is if Starmer lays out a timetable for departure tomorrow, the markets will be like, right, okay, timetable for departure, we know what to anticipate. If then on top of this Rachel Reeves gets binned, I have a feeling there could be a bit of a market meltdown.
I completely agree with you. So I think Andy Burnham is quite worried about that. You'll probably remember the comments he made a few weeks ago saying, you know, I don't care about being in hot for the bond markets. Well, the bond markets didn't like that and immediately responded. And he kind of walked back that comment as he's walked back many other comments. So I think he's going to want to pick someone who will be seen as a safe pair of hands, which is why I think Ed Miliband, as much as I do not like Ed Miliband and I do not think he's a safe pair of hands, he is someone the markets know how to deal with. He is very well liked within the party. So I think that if he's going to get rid of Reeves, it'd be a very quick change around by saying, don't worry, Ed Miliband is a no-not quantity. He's going to be put in as Chancellor instead.
Oh, it's going to happen to us so soon. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I don't know if I want it. Poppy, let's talk now about the front page of, this is a rival newspaper, but the Mail, where Kemi Badenoch has said, I will never do a deal with Nigel Farage. What do you make of this? Because it seems to me from where I'm sitting, you couldn't really, there's not exactly huge strident differences between the offer and the ideology from any of the parties on the right wing, but what we do have is a left wing very capable of forming pacts, doing deals, tactical voting, and a right wing who are not disagreeing with each other on policy, they're disagreeing with each other on who gets to enact essentially the same policies as one another. They're fighting over who gets to hold the remote control.
Alex, I think that's spot on. You know, you've just described the new reality where the left is actually going to unite under Andy Burnham and we're going to have a right wing which is divided between three parties. If we're totally truthful, Kemi needs a deal with reform more than reform needs a deal with Kemi.
Yeah.
I know that they got that by-election victory in Aberdeen South that they've been very proud of. I know they won a few councillors back, but this does not complicate the picture any more than that is true. The Tories are dead as a national political force. They have become like the Liberals did in the 20th century. They are a protest party. So if they want to hold on to their old legacy of being a national party within a two-party system, they could only do that by merging with Reform. But at the moment, that's going to be a very tough sell to people within Reform, because they're going to say, well, hang on, we took on multiple Tory politicians and then our polling started to stick. Why would we want to take on even more former Tories, particularly those who are probably quite different from us and where we want to see the country changing, quite left-wing MPs from the Conservative Party. So to be honest, I think it's a little bit of perhaps a bit of kayfabe from Kemi Badenoch. I'm not sure I totally believe her when she says she doesn't want a deal.
No, I think you're right there. I think that, this is the line that's going to come out of the Conservative Party right now. Before I let you go, Poppy, I'm kind of fed up talking about it, but we haven't spoken about it before, so it's too juicy an opportunity to miss. What do you make of Rupert Lowe and his outfit?
Well, I think it was interesting to see the polling result that they actually got in Makerfield, because I know some of the activists have put out that they might get up to 20% of the vote. They didn't. They actually slightly underperformed with their polling. And again, we have a very divided right wing in this country that is only going to benefit the left. I'm not necessarily sure people within Restore will think that they agree with reform on policy, but they probably do. Reform's policy on immigration in particular is very radical. So I'd say to a lot of people who are supporting Restore, they should ask themselves what are the real reasons they're doing it. Do they actually think that Rupert Lowe is going to be Prime Minister? And if they don't, do they want to see Labour in power for another 5 years? Because I certainly don't.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, because what's so fascinating about that entity is all the followers are so anti-reform before anything, even though, as you're saying, the policy offers are almost identical. It's a very bizarre thing. I've not really seen much like it in politics before. Poppy, it's wonderful speaking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the programme on a Sunday, giving up part of your weekend. Should we jump straight into a call?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, baby. Let's speak to Josie, who's in Leicester. Hi, Josie.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Paul. How are you guys? Okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, right.
Good sweating.
I am getting really, really fed up of this Restore crap because it ain't never going to happen. It's got one MP and that's the end of it. Reform all the way, Nigel all the way. That's it. If Restore thinks they're going to get rid of illegal migrants, right? Think about the policies that are such against the whole of the country. We all want them out of here. They're buying all our houses, which is people are not even looking at. How are people on a visa coming in this country buying our property? That's what I want to know.
Oh, I agree. I think, it's fair. By the way, don't you sit on the fence there, Josie. Tell us what you really think. But it's interesting. So, we know what she thinks about Restore, but let's pivot to what she said at the end of that, because I think it's been fascinating. Because for too long, and a lot of this, I'm afraid, was done under a Conservative government who haven't put the country first when it comes to loving markets, loving big business. And one of the most egregious things that the Conservative Party presided over was what Josie was saying. We don't talk about it enough. The fact that so much real estate has been bought by people to use as a Swiss bank account. I remember when they built that Nine Elms stuff in London with the sort of roof swimming pool. Basically, every single flat, before the thing was even built, they were given out leaflets, all in Mandarin and in Arabic, and every single flat was basically bought before it was constructed to foreigners. And it's not even now, it's not just central London and Mayfair and new developments. Foreign investors are buying, and it's not even, this is what's so crazy. I'm not talking about big, portfolios. I got mates in Ghana who I worked with from 20 years ago, who've made a bit of money back in Africa, who want to buy a property in London for the sake of having a property in London. Don't tell them that the house prices are going to start going down and all, but, no, actually do. But we've got whole streets in Croydon, for crying out loud, which have been bought by Nigerians or Ghanaians or Pakistanis, or it doesn't matter whom. But that has been one of them, and it's not just in London. It is in university towns and cities. It is in places, other big cities, Bristol, Manchester. Our property market is used like a high-interest savings account at the expense of all of us. Yeah. And successive governments have allowed this. The government could turn around tomorrow and say, you cannot buy a property in the United Kingdom unless you've lived and worked here for 10 years, unless you're a naturalised citizen. Done. Papers, please.
It's the politics of naive desperation. It's the sort of politics that people panic to, where they go, well, if we built, we're going to invest, so we need to sell, and we're going to sell to the highest bidder, which inevitably ends up, like you say, being a foreign national with lots of money. But that's not even medium term. That's incredibly short term, particularly if they stay empty. It does not change that community. The impact on the community is vast, and the long term, you've not solved any of the housing problem because those flats are empty.
Right.
So you have to start... And they deliberately made patriotism and nationalism bad. They associated it with... We're still in the shadow of Nazism, if anything. We're still in the shadow of saying that anything that's on the right and anything that's nationalistic is bad.
Is evil. I know, so we've got to grow out of that. Thank you for your call, Josie. We're taking a short break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get more of your messages, more of your calls, more from you, loads of you, a smorgasbord of you, a veritable banquet of you, coming up just after this.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oi, oi, Savaloy, we are back in business.
Oi, oi.
Well, we weirdly had a weird advert breakdown. I've no idea why, but all the guys, the two girls sensibly sat in their chairs in the gallery, looking after their desks and their buttons and their screens and the phones, and the boys, you know, Matt, Ratty and old Dean all coming in just like going, whoa,
it was all man noises, wasn't it?
I felt
a little threatened. I felt a little threatened. I started doing press-ups to impress Dean, yeah.
I don't know why they all just sort of congregated in here and started, like, whooping.
It was. And I was talking to Tech Ops Matt about his beehive as well. We were trying
that's right. Matt came in to show us the fact he's got he needs to get a third beehive.
his hives.
I
was trying to connect with Matt on the bee front. And
Matt is a character that is just inexplicable.
Yeah.
He also has the best nickname out of everybody, but we can't say it.
He's got such a good nickname.
No, we're not allowed
to
say it. No, we can't say it, but it is the best one. I think it's like the greatest of all. Right, should we do a call? Let's speak to Will in the wonderful county of Sussex. Hi there, Will.
Oh, hi, Alex. Great to speak to you, and Paul. I'm a very conflicted person on this whole situation that's coming up now. I remember back just before the last general election, I spoke to Nick Dubois, and I said, well, what the hell is this country going to do? We're going to punish 200 Tory MPs just to punish yourself. Now, they had to go. They were a pretty hopeless bunch. But Conservatives and Reform have got to come to some arrangement. I actually hope now that there is actually a snap general election, because I think it might force them to actually do something, knowing how critical the future of this country is now. I mean, personally, what I would do, I would say, right, Conservatives say to Reform, we won't. You pick 200 seats, we won't stand in, and you pick 200 seats that Reform won't stand in. I live in South Down and Arundel constituency. Next to me is Chichester. That's now Liberal. There is no way on God's earth that will ever be a Reform constituency. Yeah. I grew up in Dartford, in Kent. That is now a Labour constituency. It's a very working class type of Conservative. There is no way the Conservatives should stand in that constituency.
And you know, it's interesting, isn't it?
And I'll continue as well. I also used to live in Tunbridge Wells. That's now Liberal. Again, another perfect example. It was stupid for Reform to stand in there. We've got to get a right-wing government.
I agree with you. I think, well, if I can interject.
And this whole thing of I want to punish Nigel because he's been beastly towards...
I know. It's so pathetic. It's like...
You're going to punish yourself. You're going to punish Nigel Farage just to punish yourself.
No, but it's also mental.
He's not going to wake up poor one day, but you will be if you continue with another 10 years of communism.
Well, no, I agree. And I kind of agree with you that the Conservatives would be far more useful to the cause and far more useful to the country if they decided to go back from whence they came, which is basically, you know, Liberal Democrats with blue rosettes, and fended off that competition on the left, or the Conservative constituencies that have gone to the Lib Dems. They should go and fight Ed Davey, let Reform fight the Red Wall, and then you end up with a far bigger share of right-wingery, and then after that, you talk about doing a deal. But Kemi Badenoch trying to move the party to where Nigel Farage is, it's just, to me, it's a waste of time and energy. It's not as helpful as it would be if she tried to take on Davey.
I think the one thing that must happen for the Conservatives to regain any kind of credibility is I would deselect Caroline Noakes, people like Andrew Mitchell as well. I would also announce that there is no way Tobias Elwood will ever get on a candidacy list ever again. They have got to show that they mean business. I also believe as well that Reform and the Conservative Party, whilst not perhaps coming to arrangement, they should try and write a manifesto that has the same things like getting rid of the Equalities Act, the ECHR, these things, because if they do have to enter into a coalition government, the one thing they're going to have is they're going to have a House of Lords that's going to try and trash all their legislation. Now, if they make sure that they've both got effectively pretty much similar manifesto, then due to the Salisbury Convention, it doesn't matter what the House of Lords would like to do, they will have to pass that legislation, providing that the Conservatives and the Reform have a manifesto that on the big issues, the ones that are really going to get this country back to where it needs to be, effectively
I just feel like for the first time the right wing have all decided to be right wing and are now just blowing themselves up at the exact moment that we desperately need a proper right wing and could potentially have a proper right wing. It is infuriating. Will in Sussex, thank you ever so much. We are going to be taking a short break, but if you want to be like Will and phone the show, the number is 03444 99 1000. It's your normal network rate. You can send me a WhatsApp on that number, leave me a voice note, a jingle, a song, a rap, a poem, a haiku. 8722 on text. Write the word talk before you text. Paul and I are back just after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, and we're back. It's whenever we're together and sort of, you know, on the guest light side, so we're just nattering away, it goes by so quickly.
Oh, it just flies by.
Flies by.
There's been some great feedback as well.
Oh, has there?
From, like, really intelligent people online saying things like...
One person.
Great. Well, it was two, but...
Hey!
That's a crowd.
Let's do some messages, shall we? Because there's blimmin' loads here and I can't keep up with them. But let us crack on, shall we? I'm 60. I've worked since I was 16 and owned and run a manufacturing business for the past 30 years. Paid all my taxes and dues. My parents fought for the country. Why bother? Says Mark in Loughborough.
Is he writing to us or HMRC?
Just writing a message to the world. Like, why bother?
Why bother indeed?
Politique.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? You pay your taxes, but you don't get to choose where they go.
My tax situation is insane. I'm just so grotesque.
I'm just not going to pay mine. I will. I don't.
I tell you what is good though. If you didn't pay tax, well, there's no prison spaces. What are they going to do?
No, my luck, they'd find one. They would look at me, they would look at my job and go, we don't know what he says. He needs to go in category AAA with Big Barry the Knuckles, and I'll be in all sorts of trouble. I'd
be thrown in with you know, men in dresses and the Islamists. Alex Phillips. I don't know, why someone just said my own name? Alex Phillips! That's me! Burnham won't call an election because by the time he's Prime Minister, the boat crossings will be through the roof. Just interesting. That reminds me, Chris actually did find that story, which was in the Mail, about the fact that the thingamajig was staged. The Marines raiding the boat in the Channel was basically, it's been leaked. This is actually a massive story. Why have we not talked about this more?
Well, there's so many big stories, isn't there?
I'm not in good control of my situation or my printouts today. Oh gosh, here we go. You have no idea what it's like to have to deal with 1,000 newspapers and bits of paper. I feel like I'm a secretary. Here we go. As defence experts claim the MOD film crew led charge in highly publicised mission, is this proof of Marines' mid-channel raid on Russian ship was a staged stunt to boost embattled Starmer? This is what I'm talking about. You don't actually want to do it, you just want to pretend to do it to fib to us. All Burnham would have to do is send one deportation flight. That's it. Just one. And it would...
Well, we know that would work.
Yeah.
We know that because of what happened in Ireland when the threat in Rwanda was there. And we know what happened because of when that was removed, what also happened in Ireland, where they sort of, you know, they flooded back into Northern Ireland, and we've seen what's happened as a result of that. So it's all about optics. It's all about optics. If we all knew, let alone the general public, how politics operated, there'd be an uprising.
Yeah, exactly. That's why when I sit here and say, look, I know how these things work. I've been in it for 2 decades. I've got great sources. I've got people who give me intel. I know where to look to find where things are buried. And because I know how it works, as incredulous as it might sound to other people, I'm like, it isn't. This has been going on for ages. And it's always one party who do it the most. In simple terms, the Tories broke the country and Labour sent it to the grave. Too many imports, no tradespeople anymore, too many woke left-wing lunatics. The country is past the point of no return, says grumpy Mark in Loughborough.
I hope not.
Why bother?
Why bother? If you can't afford the beer, don't come in here. I would say that we can't allow that to seep in, because apathy is the worst thing that can happen. Apathy, of course, when you just decide there's nothing we can do here, we're just going to accept our fate, we're going to lay in the woods and wait to die. This is not what we need to be doing as a country.
What's that old adage? For evil to be evil, good men have to do nothing, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I can't remember either, but that's nearly there.
But yeah, you know, if we do nothing, then we are basically sealing our own fate. As Trump would say, the Donald. Fight, fight, fight.
Obviously, we're not condoning anyone getting shot at, but look, interesting you mentioned Donald Trump, because what Donald Trump did is he's not a Republican Donald Trump, he's the Donald Trump party who's attached to the Republican Party. He literally took a convention two-party system which could never be changed, and he just
I just watched that. I just watched your earpiece just like throw itself out of your ear and slither down your back.
About.
Earlier on, there was a split screen, because I don't know. Oh yeah, you can see up there. There was a split screen. We had a caller, and you were there going like, taking something off the floor.
think you can say this on air. I actually said bum cheeks because I thought I was so annoyed I didn't know what words to say.
But the earpieces are bad. What are they made for? Because it's not for any sort of human orifice.
I think they're for badgers.
I can't.
But what I would say about Donald Trump is he just changed the politics.
Yeah, so true. I was speaking with one of his primary strategists in 2019 the other day. Very incredible man. Incredible. And see, I've got good intel, good sources, good people who give me good info. He was basically saying, you know, what Donald Trump has managed to do is he's just said, I am the Overton window. That's it. He hasn't said, oh, look, this is where we think most voters are at, so we've got to move our policies and do focus groups and find a way here where we think most people are. He said, no, I'm here. You're coming with me. Yeah. We're bringing you to where I am. Yeah. And I think that that's what we've missed for so long. You know, as someone who is a past political operator, I think there's too many of us. I think there's too many consultants, too many pollsters, too many focus groups, too much of all this stuff. When what we actually want, and people actually have a good sense of this, you know, in their waters, they know authenticity when they see it. And what actually we could do with is just leadership. Someone who says, a bit like Donald Trump, this is where I am, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm going to do, like it or lump it. And if I were you, I'd like it, because the alternative is a drooling fossil who's basically just an auto pen. He was lucky in that regard. But that was appealing. Yeah. Having someone, you know, with minerals, not the sort of, all the non-minerally ones that we have. I'm trying to think of, you could see the list of various phrases going through my mind.
You could use any of them and be like, no.
No. No. But it's true, you know, where did leadership go? This is an era of warriors and kings. And that is what, you know, that is what's going to drive the next election. And until someone understands that it's about tough times require tough leaders, not wet behind the ears, wimpy pleasers who just say, oh, this focus group says to me that Waitrose woman would like me. No. If Waitrose woman, you know, wants that, then great. She probably won't vote for you or convince Waitrose woman that she's wrong and actually this is better.
Work out what it is you need to do within your philosophy and then create the policies that deliver that and take hearts and minds with you. Focus groups just deal with the squeakiest wheels. You go in there's inevitably some man or woman that's banging on about something, and this is why woke has perpetuated so much, because these people aren't afraid to tell us how much of a victim they are. So we listen to their victimhood and say, oh my God, we ought to do something about that, without going, what are they banging on about? Of what value is this to the greater public?
Also, I think all these things end up being a sort of circular economy because people get told what to think by newspapers, by politicians, by NGOs. Like, you know, it's unkind to not let a girl dress as a boy and things like that. They get told what to think, then they repeat that back to the political parties in the form of focus groups, who then try and please those people. When actually what you need is to completely reverse that cycle. You've got to reverse the wheel and have the political parties saying to the NGOs like Stonewall, bog off, and then saying to the public, no, that stuff's rotten. I'm sorry you've been told this for about the past 10 years. That's not what we believe in, and this is why. Now, do you agree with us? Are you coming along for the journey? Because, like I said, it's a ridiculous sort of circular loop where, you know, it's a sort of a circular firing squad of thoughts generation and opinion.
And nothing's difficult, by the way. There isn't really any massively difficult problems to solve. You know, if you look at the country as a house with a family in it and all the biscuits keep going missing, and at some point someone says, that's because you keep leaving the door open and people coming in and they're taking our biscuits, and we're actually giving them the biscuits for free. If we stop that and we just shut the door for a bit, we'll accumulate biscuits and we'll be able to feed the children once again. It's all incredibly simple.
It's easy as biscuit.
Yeah, this is my biscuit theory. Cox's biscuit theory.
Are there biscuits called Cox's? I think there are.
No, I don't know if there is or isn't.
I feel there is. I feel like it's an old school brand in a tin.
Fox's maybe.
Oh, Fox's. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Matt knew that as well. You seem too young to know Fox's biscuits.
Matt has got B's. He knows a lot of things.
Matt knows everything. I mean, Matt knows. Matt scares me.
I think he's one of those people who was actually 300 years old and found the secret to long life.
I think so, yeah. I think he's got a sort of 16th century cavalier face. I think there's some painting somewhere. Anyway, let's speak to Matt, but not that one. Matt, the caller in Cheshire. Hi, Matt.
I'm going to have to do my thing again.
Oh, God, don't mind Paul rummaging around on the floor. You know, take me full screen while he does whatever he does over there. Hiya, Matt.
Hi, good afternoon, Al. Will you stop talking about biscuits? I've not had my fry up yet. You know, I wait I have a fry up on a Sunday just once a week, and you're all talking about biscuits.
Right, it's gone lunchtime. What are you doing? Why haven't you got the pan going yet? I'll be listening to us.
No. I have like a late dinner. Well, you would call it dinner at about 5, as you Northerners call it Sunday dinner. Sunday dinner.
Do you know, I hate the word supper, by the way. I don't know why. I really hate it.
I don't think I've ever had supper.
I don't like it.
Reese Mogg has supper.
Yeah.
I don't think people
I don't
like
really
me.
understand. I think, isn't supper what comes after dinner and it's cold or something like? I don't know. I just don't like it.
Come on, sorry, Matt, this is your time. Let's not listen to me drivel on about the differences of supper
Yeah,
and
you were
dinner.
far better when you didn't have an earpiece and they were grooming around on the floor. Get back to doing that. Matt, what did you call to talk about if it isn't biscuits and supper?
Supper is now munchies later in the evening. That's what it is.
Munchies, yes, please.
Yeah. Labour are celebrating like they've just won a general election.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks this is all... They've looked at the weather forecast. Starmer's going to resign tomorrow. The sun's going to be out. And we're all going to think, oh, Andy's here. Andy's brought the weather with him. We're all so happy. Everything's going to change and we're all going to be cock-a-hoop. And I'm ringing to point out that parts of Manchester are like Baltimore. And he's an absolute failure. He's useless.
I used to live in Manchester. Which parts are the scariest now?
Piccadilly Gardens. I don't know if anyone's seen YouTube, but it's literally like part of it is like Marrakesh, and other parts of it are like Baltimore.
Right, I remember like Longsight used to, because I used to live down the road from Longsight in Bernage, and Longsight used to be like, that was a tasty little neighbourhood, that one. Ooh.
Bernage is where the Gallagher brothers grew up.
Oh, talking about that, by the way, I just read, my eyes were scanning the messages as we were speaking to Matt, and as you've just brought it up, now is the moment. It says, hi Alex and Paul, great show. I hope you're going to do your impression of Andy Burnham before you go, Paul. It's pretty good, and if you close your eyes, it's almost as if Liam Gallagher's in the room. Go on then.
I likes chips and gravy, me. I'm dead normal, me. I'm Andy Burnham, and if you vote for me, you get normal things and all of that sort of stuff and things.
I don't know what to say.
Well,
really.
what I'd like to do is, first of all, apologise to Matt, because I have no idea what that northern accent is.
That sounded like Paul Whitehouse in the last show.
I think those are my references, Paul Whitehouse and the Gallagher brothers. But my point is that Andy Burnham is trying to make him... He tried to make him sound like he was from Manchester. He tried to make it sound like he was normal. He's neither. He's from Liverpool. He's from the upper classes. And there's nothing different. But the only thing different between Starmer and Burnham is their hair colour. The rest is exactly
Even
the
the
same.
bins are the same. I tell you what, we've got an amazing video editor who's like an up-and-coming actor yet to be discovered called Porrick, and he can do all the accents and all the impressions, and I feel like we need to drag him in and put him there and just like, you know, get him to do the sort of the Burnhams and the Starmers. He actually does a really good Dean. But no one in the audience knows who Dean is to understand. You know, if he did his Dean, no one would understand that that's what it was. Matt, thank you ever so much for your call. It's so blooming hot in here, just honestly. Let's do some messages now. Starmer should fight to stay, and hopefully the Labour Party will implode. Then they'll have to call a general election. The whole party is toxic and should come with a health warning. This government is bad for you and will destroy your country. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's it. That's really interesting. On the like on the front of cigarette packets where they've got like manky old lungs, they could just put like, you know, boats or you know, the reaction to some sort of horrific crime just on the front of newspapers. Well, anywhere, just so that we can remind us.
That's pretty much what is on the front of newspapers.
I know,
that's kind of how newspapers work, Paul. What you're saying is they should put stories about what's happening in the country in newspapers. I despair.
I've got some great ideas.
That thing's going to come out here in a minute. Your ears are sweating so much it's going to pop out again. Flipping it. Right, OK, that was the most useless, can I just say, the most rubbish intervention I've ever had from you. Like, what was that?
That's saying something. I'm really sorry. I'm Andy Barnum. I can't do that.
I'm Andy Barnum and Bailey. Oh, I
like chips and gravy and
simple
Oasis.
things like newspapers. Why is it Tories that know they won't win any seats because they did nothing, but lie suddenly want a coalition with Reform? Before the last general election, where they got voted out, they want nothing to do with the far-right Reform. Now they want to be best mates. No, now they want to be Reform. That's the most mad thing. We can all see what's going on. Kerry Basenock is just trying to be where, you know, UKIP, Brexit Party and Nigel Farage have always been. And look, I'm not saying that because I might vote for Reform. I'm saying that because that's true. And then if you want to vote for that, you can. If you don't want to, you can't. But I think anybody who suddenly goes, well, Nigel Farage has been banging on about controlling immigration, leaving the EU, leaving the ECHR, getting rid of net zero for about 2 decades, and they've only just started saying it. Like, that's just truth. That isn't anything else. Now, whether and then they're like, oh, but Reform's toxic. I'm like, make it. Oh, look at this. Got a weather warning, guys.
Oh my God, there is in this room.
So bright. Honestly, I think I'm going to need.
Warm.
By the way, we asked for a cup of tea and a glass of water about half an hour ago. I think they actually are trying to kill us in the gallery. They don't care.
The little people need to listen more, is what I would say.
Exactly. They're still not listening now.
Not
Anyway, breaking news: a new weather warning for extreme heat has been issued by the Met Office, with UK temperatures set to reach as high as 38 degrees next week. Woo! Can you imagine?
I can imagine. It's 38 degrees in here.
No. 38 degrees would be cool compared to this. Honestly, I think I'm going to have to sue the company. Mr. Murdoch can pay for the heat stroke I'm about to have. Guys, we're going to be taking a break so I can continue wafting myself, but then we'll see you on the other side.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Do you know, we still get all the mad woke stories, even though I felt like we've reached peak woke and woke has died. We're still generating, you know, those weird things that happen on those big sheets of paper. Oh yeah, headlines.
I invented that.
Still my favourite concept you've ever come up with. Here we go. In one of those weird things where things that are happening in the world are printed out, there's this story. Apparently the former marketing director who was responsible for the Yorkie Not For Girls ads says they would be outlawed today. He's called Andrew Harrison, Nestlé's former marketing director, and he said the tongue-in-cheek promotions would be impossible to recreate in a modern era of wokey correctness.
Yeah, what a great advert that was, by the way. That was back in the halcyon days of the 90s where you could actually say something like that. And by the way, girls still ate Yorkies.
No, actually, this is the great thing about it, because what happened was, chocolate is often marketed to women, isn't it? Like, Cadbury's
milk
and
tray. The guy was swinging through the
Yeah.
window. Now that's a hate crime, by the way. You can't just jump in through women's windows with a box of chocolates.
What happened to Diet Coke, man?
Well, again, the same problem.
Do you think he and the? Do you know what? I reckon Sam did.
I've attempted both, right? I jumped in through a woman's window with chocolates and said, fancy a bit of the old coxie, and got arrested. I then stood outside an office block and took my top off and drank Diet Coke, also got arrested. So these things don't work.
They seem to work. But I miss them. Do you know, I reckon the milk tray man and the Diet Coke man, I reckon they're probably gay. And have moved to
Well, they were
Brighton.
very good looking and well kept, so I would say that maybe they were. But,
I miss
that's a
those
stereotype.
days. I miss that. I miss fun.
Ring in if you miss the days of half-naked men selling you things.
Hi, Alex here. Hi, Alex and Paul. Great show as always. Millipeter's Chancellor alongside Burnham as PM terrifies me. If we're not doomed already, God help us in 6 months'
Did he call
time.
him Millipede?
No, by the way, it's not he. Don't offend our greatest listener.
Who was it? What was his name?
It's not.
What was her name? Who was it?
Who's our greatest listener?
Claire from...
Yes, this is Claire.
Oh, sorry,
Buckley,
Claire.
North Wales. How dare you?
I didn't realise it was Claire. Claire actually has reached out to me a couple of times now.
She's just said, not long to go now, and you can cool down with a 3-finger gin. I've got to drive home. I've got to get all the way back down the west before I can have my 3-finger gin. I wonder what Starmer will actually say in his resignation announcement. What reasons do you think he will give for standing down, says Adrian in Wales. Oh, it'll be the usual. I have come to the decision after a lot of thinking that the country is just some word soup. He's not exactly going to be like, have Burnham then, suckers. I'd love it if he did that.
Oh, man.
I'd be like, respect politique.
I bet he says right wing at some point.
Hi, Alex and Paul. Great show. On a happy note, you both look very smart today. Alex in her pretty blouse and Paul in a very cool shirt. I have the same one. A man with great taste.
Really? I bought
Keep
it from...
fighting the good fight, Michael from Oxford.
Yeah, I was going to say where I bought it from.
Where?
Marks and Spencer's.
I love M&S.
Yeah, it's got some great
Never, I'm M&S and Clark's all the way, me.
Oh,
I love a bit of Clark's. I can't walk in anything else.
Yeah, I got nearly all of my school shoes from Clark's. I remember having to go there and
do you
get
not do
my
Clark's
feet measured up.
today? Clark's are the best.
I can't remember the last time I used
Other shoe
Clark's.
brands are available. Oh, you need to go back there.
Get my feet measured with my mum.
Like start right at the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love them. I'm all for comfy shoes. Did you know, by the way, that in the Caribbean, Clark's are really desirable. They're like the coolest shoes.
Really?
So much so that a very famous dancehall artist called Vibes Cartel has a whole rap song all about got to get his Clark's shoes. It's a massive hit.
And it's the same brand as here.
Yes, it's the same Clark's. Alex, please tell Paul I would not let Labour run a bloody bath. Neil in Labour obliterated Wales.
Thanks for telling me. Me either, by the way.
So, by the way, Neil in obliterated Wales wouldn't let Labour run a bath. Dan from Kent says, I'll probably vote Tory next election because I like Katie Lamb and I believe she's doing a good job, but I want reform or restore to win the government.
This is interesting, actually, because there are...
By the way, is Katie Lamb your local MP? Because that would make sense if you like her and she's your local MP. But saying I want reform or restore to win the government, but I'm going to vote
Tory
Conservative because I like an MP who is not the leader, is just in the mix, is an odd strategy.
It feels like a vote for coalition to me. And this is very interesting because people are picking... Kemi Badenoch is doing a very good job, all things considered, but is unlikely to become Prime Minister because her party is disastrous. But you could probably pick lots of people on the right and put them all in one place and make it work to some degree. But it's a little bit like what Thomas Tuchel's done with England. He's not picked the big names. He's picked the best team to deliver his idea of how England should play football. So we need to first figure out what the right wing looks like. What is the offering? Because people keep arguing. And once we've agreed that, we can then build the team around it.
Oh, thank you, my darling. You don't have to crawl around like that. We don't mind people in camera shot on a Sunday, especially girls as lovely as you. It's my cup of tea. Right, God, I sounded like a pervy old man there.
Yeah, well,
I'd sort of turned into, I don't know.
But you're not, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. I can get away with being a pervy old
Politique.
man. Politique. Right, should we do a call? Let's do
Go
that.
on.
Because we've got Peter in Sussex. Hi, Peter. Lots of Sussex
Yeah, I like
today.
Sussex. I know Sussex well.
Yeah, good Sussex. Hi, Peter.
Yeah, I live in... Hi, Alex. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Yeah, I live in Seaford on the south coast, just up the road from Brighton.
Yeah, I know where you are, mate.
Good place.
Very
In
nice.
fact, apparently one of the UK's best hidden beaches is somewhere down your way.
It's probably West
the other day.
Witterings,
Yeah,
though, isn't it?
we've got a nudist beach in Brighton.
Oh!
but I've never been there, so just rumours. So yeah, I mean,
just rumours that you have been there, Peter.
just rumours.
When I was a school kid, we used to bunk off to go down there, but unfortunately, when we used to bunk off, it was a winter, so hardly anybody there. So
well, that's not a good strategy.
No, and all you're going to see is middle-aged men with their sausages hanging out, mate. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not what you expect as a teenage boy.
Exactly. The reason I rung is that I was listening to your conversation with Mr. Is it
Mel Stride?
Yeah. I just think that he's in cuckoo land. I mean, I tell you, I'll give him a backstory. I voted Tory when I was 17, when Margaret Thatcher became in 1979, and then I carried on voting for them until 2024, because I voted Boris because he gave us all hope, and then he let us all down. He just absolutely let us all down with his BS, really. And all these Kemi talks of good talk, and all these others, but are they really in cuckoo land when they're 14 years? When you look back at 14 years, what they could have actually done to this country.
I agree.
And what they actually did to this country is more like. And I just think that until they get reality check, they're not going to be votable at all.
No, I tend to agree.
I know Nigel Farage has got a few bad points, but he's the only one with a vision for this country. Rupert Lowe, I do respect, but unfortunately, he's just bitter and twisted because he fell out with Nigel. So this is all a revenge thing, nothing else.
I came up with an analogy yesterday that you might quite enjoy, because when I thought about this the other day, I was chatting away to them, and it was my mate Belinda, and she's like,
Carlisle.
The Lucy.
Oh.
Do you know lovely Belinda?
I do,
She used
yeah.
to pop up on GB News and all that. We were breakfast
she sort of
party
took a
MVPs
step
together.
back, didn't she? Because
I
really
too
liked
cool for
Belinda.
school.
She was a very nice lady.
Yeah, she's my bezza. Anyway, I was saying to her, we were having a drink, and I was like, it's so mad when you think about it. It's a bit like, being dumped by your boyfriend and being so angry you need to set up some sort of national movement to destroy him and destroy the country in the process. It's like, just cry, eat some ice cream and get over it,
Yeah,
and what I've noticed about these men in politics is, I'm a man, I'm going to fight for the country. It's like, you're awfully sensitive, aren't you? Just saying. Anyway, thank you for your call, Peter in Sussex, and echoing, I think, the mood of all of us, where we just sort of feel like, who can we trust in politics? Let us do a couple more. I like this one. A couple more messages. Keir Starmer is still Prime Minister. He could call a general election tomorrow, which would completely throw all of those Labour backbench backstabbers. Oh, and it would burst Burnham's bubble. Imagine that. I'd love it if he came out and just went...
Yeah.
General election.
He could well do. He could do a whole bunch of things, I'm sure, within his power. And look, we know that the Tories can be quite ruthless. We've seen that. They changed any sign of trouble, they change their leader quite quickly. The process for Labour is very different. And there's going to be all sorts of guts and stuff up against the wall when this is done. This is not going to be... Even a coronation's going to be a problem. So let's wait and see. I think we're in for a very interesting summer. And I think they believe they're going to get away with it. And they can just change it over and we'll all just go, oh, look, it's amazing. And by the way, this will be perpetuated by the BBC and ITV and Sky News. They're all going to be going, oh, this is wonderful. It's changed. Look how much it's changed. We're all going to be looking at them going, are you mental?
No, well, quite, exactly. It'd be a new character in Downing Street and all the same old rubbish.
I like chips and gravy, me.
Why did you say it in a threatening way? Sorry. Your chips and gravy are coming. We're going to be serving Paulie's chips and gravy during this advert break. Don't go anywhere.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, hello, hello. Now, fascinating things coming out of America overnight. The outgoing director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has released a trove of files from Friday, which have detailed Dr. Anthony Fauci's role in the COVID-19 pandemic. It shows that officials protected him from a whistleblower complaint alleging he lied to Congress about gain-of-function research after he suggested pangolins were to blame for the outbreak that killed millions. Now, we all know that Fauci was connected to the Wuhan virology lab, but he said he wasn't. We all know that it was not some bat and pangolin doing weird things in a wet market. But the big question here is, how on earth did the whole world get so audaciously lied to? And then, after that, our own COVID lockdown inquiry has been accused of burying evidence on, and this is terrifying, the state surveillance of lockdown critics. At the height of the pandemic, anti-lockdown campaigners were covertly monitored by the government and the military, and had their social media posts flagged for removal. We lived through something so disgusting, so dangerous and so dystopian. We must never forget it. And I'm extremely proud to welcome our next guest, Professor Angus Dalgleish. He's a Professor of Oncology at St George's University in London. Now, the reason Professor Dalgleish is so important is he's recently been invited over to give testimony in front of Congress in America and is one of the world leaders when it comes to understanding the COVID spike and the gain-of-function research. Angus, I mean, this is not any new information to you, is it? But how do you feel about it finally being bust wide open by Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, I'm delighted. I mean, she's leaving. This is her extracting the truth, which she knows she's been part of a cover-up, as it were, and she's just not going to have any more of it. And I think that what she's doing with Tony Fauci, many of us have been crying for a long, long time. We know he lied about everything. He lied about the origin of the virus, which my colleague Birger Sorensen and I basically put together from the published sequence. So this came from the laboratory, because biologically it was impossible to have positively charged inserted sequence in a natural virus. A natural virus would edit these things out. And so it had to have come from the lab. They had previously published 2 of these, saying we made a bat virus infect a human cell. Aren't we clever? They published it twice in the main literature. So, and I told everybody this, I passed our work on to our government, where it's well documented. Patrick Vallance sneered at it. I passed it on to Fauci, who I knew from HIV days, who basically then came out and said these are conspiracy theories, they're all lies. And now we know why he did it. And by the way, I must take this opportunity. People say it's very easy to be right in retrospect, but I'd just like to put this up. We published the origin of the virus, straight away. And it has the entire story, the entire science. Stephen Key, who gave evidence to the Senate as well. We all completely agreed on it, yet it was completely ignored.
Have you ever seen anything like this in your long and distinguished career, where we were told we were following the science, when actually what was happened is some of the most world-leading, brilliant brains in science who were saying things such as, this virus is man-made. If it's come out of that lab, let us get access to those materials so we can actually know how to deal with it. Who were saying that potentially lockdowns are going to be worse than actually potentially just ring-fencing and protecting vulnerable individuals. And who now, and this is what scares me the most, because I know that you went over to America with a good friend of mine, Dr. Aseem Malhotra, and one of the things you were talking about and giving evidence on is the risk of the vaccines. And it seems to me they've sort of been shuffled out of wider use and circulation at the moment. But that is the next big cover-up, isn't it?
It's just an unbelievable cover-up. Going back to that, what we pointed out about the spike protein being engineered, our big screaming message was, do not use this as the vaccine, because when you analyse it, it makes the spike protein look similar to 80% of your human epitopes, i.e. it had an 80% mimicry leaving only 20% original. This would guarantee enormous autoimmune reactions. And we even found some which would guarantee clots, and another one, the myelin, would guarantee Guillain-Barré, Bell's palsy, all these things. They all occurred. They were all brushed under the carpet as being very rare. And don't worry about it. They're not rare. On the clotting and spikes alone, the MHRA, who I think are completely guilty on this, sat on 48,000 yellow cards for the AstraZeneca vaccine alone and did nothing. The same agency that boasts if they have a dozen yellow cards, they'll take it very seriously and put the drug on hold. I mean, there's just so much went on. And with regards, can I just comment on the actual thing about this COVID being reported? I was told I must be on that list. And could I go through this very complicated way of finding out? And I found out that I had actually been reported, this is meant to be for terrorists, 24 times. And one of the times, I was told by an insider, I was reported by Chris Whitty, Chief Medical Officer, when we sent a letter saying how dangerous the vaccines were. What? So instead of engaging, is reported. This is alleged, I'm told by an insider, I haven't seen it, but I was told that he was one of the people that reported me. Why would you do that unless you're completely trying to cover something up? And when you do that, you're always going to get found out eventually, just like it's coming out now.
What do you think when it comes to these vaccines? Because people listening to this, most of us had the vaccines. Most of us were told initially we had to, but then in the latter stages, we sort of felt compelled to if you wanted to go on holiday. And, you know, if you were working in the medical profession or, you know, the sort of mad campaign, the demonisation of people who were then labelled as anti-vaxxers was off the charts. And we do know that people suffered vaccine injuries. That is a fact. The proportion we don't know. What I want to ask you, Angus, is should people be worried even today? Or is it the case of if you're OK today and you've had the vaccine, clearly there's not going to be any long-term implications? And also, are there connections between potential research being done into potential connections between, let's say, the vaccine and an uptick in certain cancers or an uptick in young people having heart attacks? Because these conversations seem to have been shut down again, and I think they're vital.
Well, you're completely correct. They have been shut down, and they were very, very obvious. When I tried to point it out to the hospital, the medical colleagues, that I was seeing relapse and cancer, and I was told that there was no evidence of it, and that I should set up a study to do it. And I said, well, studies require a lot of time and a lot of money, and you know, we'd do that. And then I was told if I got the money, they wouldn't allow me to do it. I mean, what earth is going on with this top-down suppression? Well, we all know that. I would like to find somebody who doesn't know somebody who was injured by the vaccine or had a condition associated with the vaccine, such as strokes, heart attacks, or autoimmune disease, or unexpected cancer come along. I mean, it's everybody I ask knows somebody along that line, which means it's extremely common. And yet, the COVID inquiry only on the vaccines was unbelievable. Hugo Keith, I mean, how could they possibly tell you their preconceived conclusion on the opening statement? He says, we all know the vaccines have saved millions of lives. There is no evidence for that. That's entirely from a predictive computer modelling, which we know was completely wrong, which had us all locked down, ruined our lives, ruined the lives of lots of young people, and even worse, those who had terrible side effects from it. Now, I was in the Senate because Ron Johnson is like no other politician that we have in this country. He's looked at the data and he realises this is very serious. Could we go along, present our data and debate it? And he allowed us to do it. My point of view is I see too strong a link, both epidemiologically, personally, and from laboratory evidence, that these vaccine boosters are probably okay on the first.
Oh! Sorry about that. Paul's phone just went mad.
I'm so sorry.
Bad behaviour today. We're listening very intensely as well.
Sorry.
My goodness.
I'm so sorry.
Well, you're not coming back next week. You're done. Angus, just ignore that fool in the corner. He's been misbehaving all day. What you're saying is so important. It is so important. I just want to make clear to the audience, Professor Dalgleish is world-renowned. You're not someone who's, you know, taken to sort of mad conspiracies or political campaigning. You know your stuff. You've been leading research into such things for all of your life. And you were basically listed as a terrorist. And now, you know, how are the UK treating you now? People listening, when you're trying to say, I think there's going to be connections, we've got to sort of take this seriously between the vaccines and certain other things. And, you know, even if they did listen, what should we be doing about this? Is there a way of reversing some of these harms?
That is an incredibly good question. Yes, there is. There's a range of people who've discovered things that will reduce the circulating spike protein, and hopefully that will reduce your risks of other long-term things happening. But the most important thing is not to have any more boosters. It is the boosters that are causing the problem. And virologically, if a vaccine needs a booster, it doesn't work. And if it needs another booster, it suppresses the immune system, making you more susceptible. Now, how many people do you know had COVID after they've had their boosters? Because I know a few, and I just have to smile. What do you expect? We know from the Pfizer papers that this vaccine never stopped transmission, so it should have been stopped there and then. We know it's caused all these problems. It should have been stopped. The reason I'm ranting and screaming about this is stop it now before it does any more harm.
I tell you what's interesting, Prof. I include myself in my sample size here, but I know a huge number of people who are quite young like me who randomly got shingles.
Yes. Yeah, that's because it suppresses. Shingles is basically a sleeping virus in your nerves, and it's controlled beautifully by a well-trained and healthy immune response. What happens when you give these vaccines? It causes sudden activation, a huge burst of activation of the immune system, which ends up suppressing the T-cell response that controls your shingles, the virus, keeps it under thing, and it's no longer under control, so out it pops and you get shingles. Now, what I'm concerned is that explanation explains what I've been seeing with cancer patients who've been completely disease-free for years, then they get a booster and cancer comes back. And that's a T-cell related thing. And because we have real proper science showing this, and there's a Spanish group did beautiful work showing how after your first booster, third vaccine, your T-cell response goes through the floor, goes right down. That's why all these things come back. And still, I receive from my family practice, things to come along. I've had 6 vaccine requests to go and get 6 vaccines this year alone. 2 of them COVID boosters. Why is the government doing this? I asked somebody in government who ought to know, and he came up with possibly the only reasonable solution. He says they bought so many of the bloody things. He said they feel they ought to use them up.
Oh my goodness! It's just
they're dangerous. They're dangerous.
Oh, it's crazy. Listen, Professor Angus Dalgleish, what an enlightening, frightening, but very important interview. We must keep in touch with you over this one as this story develops. This stuff is terrifying. It'll be interesting, actually. I'm going to be interested to see what the aftermath to this is going to be, because if this was 2 years ago, I'd have had Ofcom on my case. There'd be complaints. I'd probably have the government getting in touch with the company. You weren't allowed. We know from this. We know from this that the military were, monitoring people who were saying anything negative about the vaccine and cutting them off. So it'd be interesting having Professor Angus Dalgleish, who's been proven right on the origins of COVID and was treated like a terrorist, who's been invited over to Senate in America to give testimony under oath, who is one of the lead researchers in things like epidemiology and whatever, virology and all the rest of it. And he's now saying, he is very certain. Lord knows how T-cells and this stuff works. I'm not a medic, but it sounds like he very much knows exactly what's going on. And it will be very interesting to see if the powers that be are made aware of me talking about this with Angus Dalgleish today and whether there's any reprisals. Is this still going on? Is this surveillance still going on?
We must thank Professor Angus Dalgleish for that, and but purely because what's in this for him now? He's had his voice squashed for so many years, but the only reason he will be doing this now is to prevent any unnecessary deaths and to bring to light or any more unnecessary deaths, shall I say, and to bring to light the fact that we have been lied to so tragically, and that people are still buying into this. Elderly people are getting 2-3 boosters a year. For what value?
Yeah, no, it's terrifying. And the public trust now, when you think essentially the whole world was lied to, not just one person, not just happening in the UK of a corrupt government, the whole world was lied to about where this virus came from. Then they were lied to about what the correct course of action to suppress the virus is. Then they were told they can't criticise these vaccines or they get blacklisted or, you know, lose their jobs or whatever it may be, demonised, ostracised. Then we might be finding out now that these vaccines have caused injuries and we're not allowed to talk about that. That level of cutting human trust and the innate need to be able to rely upon medical science, upon governments, about the people leading these big institutions, whether it's the WHO, the UN, the, you know, American chief medic, whatever it may be. When you hear that Patrick Vallance, apparently according to Angus Dalglish, went, yeah, not interested. And then allegedly, Chris Whitty was the one who reported him for having these... When you think how dangerous that is, how wicked and dangerous that is, and the scale upon which that was perpetrated, at one point, you know, if someone wrote that into some sort of dystopian novel, I'd have thought it was a little bit on the nose. Well, that's got a bit far, hasn't it? Like that would happen.
They were able to take advantage of our fear. If you remember back to March of 2020, February, March of 2020, when cases were becoming more and more prevalent, most people, many people, were incredibly fearful of what this new disease was likely to do. We were seeing images of people laid in intensive care in Italy, because remember, Italy got incredibly hard hit. We're all here in London thinking, well, is this going to happen to us? And then the government shut us down. So we're in this state of fear thinking that we're being looked after. And once you're in that psychosis, which they had us in, you can almost do anything with anybody. This has been proven time and time again.
Isn't that the scariest part?
The fact that they would take advantage of that is the scariest part.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, give me your hand.
Naughty. I'm so sorry.
That was a very, you know, serious part of the... What was that?
I'll tell you in the
You're
break.
a mess today.
I'll tell you in the break. That was very not what I wanted to happen. I'm very sorry. I'd like to apologise.
I actually I hope that they've clipped it up so we can have a little that little viral circular just to entertain us. Oh, Paul.
I'm so sorry, Alex.
We're going to take keep saying it. Right, we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, Paul will break some cameras, spill some water in the control mechanisms, do a massive fart. Who knows? That's all coming up after this.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello.
Hello.
You're behaving now.
I'm trying to behave.
I like the fact where you've been so naughty. You've decided to like tidy all the newspapers. You've pushed the water glass away from you. You know that you're in detention after this.
I am in detention. Thank you.
Big trouble,
Sounds
son.
Bloody lovely.
Big trouble. Let's do some messages, shall we?
Let's do it.
And I'm keeping my beady eye on you. What are you doing now?
No,
Put your hands where I can see them. What are you messing
But
with?
the thing is, the lead is about half a metre less than it needs to be. So every time I move during the break, it pulls out.
Wonderful guest, genuinely enlightening, says Mark. Yes.
Agreed.
Great show, Alex and Paul. The Labour Party have been jumping up and down about Trumpian politics and spouting venom about reform being a one-man party. The whole Burnham campaign is like a one-man band. It's like a presidential campaign, says Brad in Cambridgeshire. It was. But what I just found it so mawkish and twee with that little cartoon face. Andy for us. I'm like, what is this? Like
But it wasn't even
Napoleon
a smiley
Dynamite
face,
trying
was
to
it?
become like...
It was a little bit USSR. It was a little bit, you know. It was the sort of thing you would have seen in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Well,
coming
yeah, but
out
that would have been some sort of like, you know, sort of very angular, grey face, you know, fist held high. This was like an emoji. It was so, I find it kind of pure. But so much of politics is just infantilised now. The whole left wing is like, you know, Zach Palanski going, in Heaven nightclub, or, you know, a mean blimmin' emoji face Andy Burnham. Andy for us. It's like, can you imagine Churchill having like a little sort of puppy dog like this go, way, vote,
well,
Winnie.
Here's the worrying thing. It worked. 55% of the vote.
But that's because over the course of decades now, we've all been made into blimmin' snowflakes. We're all told, be kind. I hate that. That's one of the worst things. Be kind. Hashtag be kind. Like we're 3-year-olds at school pulling each other's pigtails.
And none of them are kind.
No, little Timmy. You've got to learn to be kind. We're adults.
Yeah.
This is the problem now.
And you don't have to be kind.
No, sometimes being unkind. No, I'm always kind. I'm ready for when the king of the knout takes over Sir Never Here, and he mentions the small but very large boats. Burnham won't return them, says David in the
Burnham
Cotswolds.
won't return them.
Burnham won't return them. Crash and burn them. Burn them, the economy. Ooh. Go quite
Lovely.
far with this. I hope that England doesn't win the World Cup if Burnham becomes PM. With the Burnham bounce and England winning the World Cup, the country would be euphoric enough for him to win another 5 years. And at that point, we're all finished.
No, we can't have that.
We cannot have that.
We can still have England winning the World Cup, by the way. It's nothing to do with Andy Burnham. He can try his best to manipulate it into that message. But most people who follow football aren't huge political fans, and when they are, they tend to be slightly on the right, because they're the ones that are often controlled. You know, throughout my life, football fans have always been demonised, and they've tried to gentrify football in some way, but you can't take it away from the working classes.
I have a feeling, though, that I think what's interesting about that message is I can totally see Andy Burnham looking at the situation, his Andy for us, and, you know, how well just that simple messaging worked in Makerfield. I can see the idea that England does well in the World Cup and there's a mood of sort of positivity. It's summer, we got good weather, everyone's a bit more relaxed about things going on. You know, it's not like winter where you're sort of cold and can't put the heating on and everything feels rubbish and you're depressed anyway and sort of glued to your television because you can't go outside and play. But I wonder if he will be looking at this going, it's time to dust off the 1997 Blair campaign. Basically, you know, just rerun the things can only get better.
Yeah.
With the pop music, with the positivity, with the cartoon face, with that sort of feel-good vibe. Because so much of politics now is vibes. Of course, all those morons in the legacy channels were just like, Andy Burnham, isn't he so lovely? You know, they won't be like, so what are you going to do about these big issues? It'll just be like, wow, a positive campaign.
But how are they going to square the fact that the England team fly the St George Cross? Because the St George Cross is racist.
Don't you worry about that. Burnham will have learnt those lessons and he'll suddenly be... Because Keir Starmer now can't be seen anywhere without a union flag behind him. Have you noticed?
I have noticed.
Burnham will be all over that stuff. He knows what buttons to press. You know, when you looked at that... the press conference the morning after he won Makerfield, he was talking about the unfairness of HMOs. Didn't go as far as saying, I'll stop the boats, but, you know, touching on that, is talking about getting universities or sort of further education out of the stranglehold of this needless expensive academia and retraining people, talking about prioritising British people, talking about reinvigorating manufacturing. He was saying all the right things. Yeah. And the thing is, like I said, there is this thing psychologically like you said earlier, you know, we live in the cut and thrust of this. We're political nerds. And so we scrutinise everything, we analyse everything, we apply critical thinking. But the vast majority of people out there just go with vibes. The amount of people I speak to back where I live who sort of, you know, I've had people say, oh, I'm going to vote Green because they seem nice. Like, literally, people who have, you know, middle-class professions who you would think might go, let's see what that's all about. The amount of vibes politics like that is overwhelming. And that's the thing. I would imagine a general election called in winter would probably really favour the right wing. Genuinely. And there's all, you know, when people are coming out with political strategies and tactics, these are the sort of questions they're looking at because there are real world implications. But when the country is happier, more relaxed, not feeling the strain of the big issues that are facing the country, then that is the moment to run a general with a simple message of being like, things can only get better. Boom, boom, boom. Isn't Andy great? Andy for us. Woo! And they might not have as big a majority, but he could get it over the line. Genuinely.
Yeah, it's not impossible right now, but I don't think Makerfield isn't the be all and end all. It was never the be all and end all. Had Reform won it, it wouldn't have been the be all and end all. Had Restore won it, as we were being told at one point during that lead up to the vote, it still wouldn't have been the be all and end all. Andy Burnham got through on a protest vote against Starmer. Andy Burnham was very likely to win that seat anyway. Had the politics not been what it was, he might have got less of the vote. But a lot of people from Labour would admit that if you put Mr Average generic Labour person in there, they probably would have lost to Reform or would have been run a lot closer. This was not necessarily telling us that there's now a resurgence in favour of Labour.
The word Labour didn't appear on any campaign materials. It was basically, if you don't like Sir Keir Starmer, vote Andy Burnham. And it's remarkable, isn't it? Like I said, sometimes you just put your head in your hands and you think, oh my gosh, I wish people weren't so, what's the word, believing and trusting. This idea that, you know, voting for Andy Burnham is going to